Hello, folks. Good evening. Happy Monday. Sorry we were a little bit late there, having some technical issues, but I think we got that all sorted out. I got Matt here from the Eccentric Credentials. Matt, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you doing today?
I am doing all right. I'm enjoying my last vacation day. It's been a year and a half since I actually took a vacation, so I have forgotten what it was like.
Nice. Yeah, they. I don't even know what that's like as far as leaving. I haven't left Sitka in the longest time that I've ever lived here. So,
Well, it's not about leaving. It's more like not having to work during a weekday. That's the part that I was like, okay, so you're saying it's a Monday and I don't actually have to do work.
right, right.
Ah, that's what this is like.
That is pretty. That's how it was Friday. You know, being a teacher, we get Thursday, Friday off for
Hmm.
Thanksgiving. So,
Oh.
I woke up on Friday. Of course, you know, you try to sleep in, but you end up waking up way too early. You're like, oh well, I'm supposed to be up for work technically, so I just roll with it and
Yeah.
stay up. But
Well, I spent
yeah,
the last up until a month or so ago, I was working on contract, which meant that basically you can take a vacation if you want. They'll give it to you. It's like you don't get paid. It's
right,
like you don't get paid, you don't work, which meant that it's like no, I'm working. It's like,
right,
but you don't have. I'm working and I'm billing you.
right.
You better believe it. The last couple of months at
Exactly.
the old job, I had to use some of my vacation time anyway. I had some left, but I was working on a project that was basically 12-hour days. That's what I did before I started the consulting gig. Then I was working full time for that, busy towards the end here, and then
Gotcha.
now I'm full time again. They're like, "Oh, Carlos, you get some vacation days for the end of the year." I'm like, "Great, I'm taking this one. I'm taking this one."
That's awesome, man. Well, have you enjoyed the vacation? I mean, has it helped you kind of like sort some things out with your collection and whatnot, or you
It was
just been like
partially
taking it easy?
collection, but to be honest, what it really was sorting some things around the house because I've got an extra bedroom that is now like the storage room. I'm like, I have space around here. How quaint.
Ah,
How
perfect.
nice. How nice. So anyway, we're gonna chat. We're gonna chat here with Matt for about a couple of things going on. So let me start with this because I do want to touch on after. Let's at least get this warmed up a little bit. But I
Mhm.
also want to touch on a couple of things related to PSA being purchased, which is the story du jour today, which is very interesting. We can definitely chat
Okay.
about that for a little bit. But first, let's start off with this, since there's a couple of things going on. One other thing for those of you that remember, going back a little bit in the archives, I started doing these live streams back in August, and Matt was my first guest back in
That's
August.
right.
And this one is my 12th version of this hobby randoms thing, which is my favorite number, so it worked very beautifully. Along with my 12th video in the other series, so I was like, today was a perfect day for it. It's like the
Oh,
number
nice.
12 is a perfect theme. It might be in my Instagram number as well, just right there.
Possibly. I think I remember
Yeah,
seeing it.
yeah. But it's my favorite number, so it worked out. Today was that day. But yeah, so first of all, I have a little bit of an idea, but just for everybody else's benefit, what's been going on the last couple of months since basically August?
Well, it's been really heavy with like focusing on the Tyler Glasnow collection. But once baseball ended, I I don't know. I kind of wanted to get back to the focus that I had when you and I first started talking. Is that and that was more goalie driven and hockey focused. And you know my Jocelyn Tebow collection. You've seen some of the cards that I've been able to pick up for it. It kind of got to a place where my A Rod collection is at, which is like I might get a card once a week or once every other week, but it's kind of buttoned up for the most part. So I needed to come up with a new project and a goal for my collecting, and I it just came to me. It was last Friday or a couple Fridays ago, and I was talking with somebody on Instagram, hockey card stories, I believe, and he's a Young Guns collector. And I'm like, you know what? I should put the Young Guns set together, like the whole thing of all the goalies, not every player, because that would be ridiculous, but all the goalies. And that was my very first passion collecting as a 5 year old, thanks to my dad. And I thought, well, I should just go for it. Why not? And then I kind of gauged what I was looking at price wise total. Who were the biggest ones? Who were who were the ones that were obscure? And I came to like this big realization, which I know we're going to dive into, and that's that young gun rookies are not like rookies, the rare rookies of today in baseball. The purple refractor auto out of 25 or whatever. Those don't exist, so they're readily available. So I thought this is going to be a fun set, and also to learn about all these goalies. Like I'll just throw a few names out there for anybody listening. Danny Taylor, anybody know who that is? Dan Lacosta. Those were a couple. Leland Irving, his story is just amazing, which I'm excited to tell that story in a unique way here in a couple weeks. So
Sure.
guys like that, I've had a lot of fun finding these goalies. Like, who are these guys? What are their stories? Why have I not heard of them? And you start doing some digging, and you find the card, and then you find more about their story, and it's been just a lot of fun the last few weeks digging
Well, I think
deep into this.
one of the things you hit on, and as I'm talking, I'll kind of grab a couple of the comments here. So, good evening, Paul. Thanks for your patience. We were just getting things set up, but Paul was here right away as usual. So, thanks for that. I enjoyed Dave's here as well, so we always appreciate that. Hockey is fun to collect, absolutely. Paul remembers a couple of those ones, so yeah,
nice.
definitely. Paul knows his hockey a little bit as well. Justin
like
Pogge, absolutely. That's another one.
His Young Guns card. Sorry, his Young Guns card is, I think, my favorite picture of a Young Guns card because he has this huge smile on his face behind the mask as a play is coming toward him. It's really cool. That's been a lot of fun to see too. Great picture. And
I think, and we'll chat a little bit about this as well, because the whole thing with Young Guns has always been kind of interesting, because we discussed that a little bit. It got brought up a little bit. But the Young Guns thing started for the first set, but it was kind of like a throwaway. It was just a handful of cards, and then a handful in the second year. It became a collector's choice thing for a cup of coffee there for a little bit before it became kind of a full-time staple back on regular Upper Deck, which it turned out was a good thing for them because, but the inaugural class I think included like Patrick Stefan and such luminaries.
The 2000-2001 set was quite big too. There's 13, 14 goalies, and I've had the Yanni. Is it Herm or Herme? I got to make sure.
I say Herme, but I genuinely don't know.
All right. Well, I just loved the picture on there. He's got this really dark mask with all dark pads and dark jersey, and it had the copper along the side where it says Young Guns with white on the left side. And I thought, man, that card looks really, really cool. So, it all started there, and I believe Marian Gaborik has a Young Gun in that year. So that's
for the one you're talking about with the white border, Danny Heatley as well.
Danny Heatley and Marian Gaborik. Okay. And of course, those guys watching all the NHL All-Star games growing up, I mean, those guys were top notch, and all the goalies in there, none of the goalies in there really a couple of them had decent careers. David Abisher, he had probably the best career out of all the goalie Young Guns in there, but Andrew Raycroft, big bust on that one, and Yanni Herme as well, but cool cards nevertheless.
Some of them, the old thing with the Young Guns used to be that initially they would come out hot because nobody knows. Yeah. And then maybe they have a run somewhere in there. The thing with the Young Guns set, and one of the areas that I think it resonated with folks, was that if you wanted to prospect, that was the way. Yeah. Because they would put in such a volume of players that you genuinely don't know. Somebody could come out. Usually you had like, oh, these are the can't miss guys. Crosby and Ovechkin were the can't miss guys that year. You knew if you pulled one of them, you're probably all right, one way or the other. I forget if it's the year before. It might have been a year after or 2 years after. I remember it was what's his name? Goalie for the Pens.
Marc-Andre Fleury?
Thank you, Marc-Andre Fleury. Because I pulled him in. I opened one box and I pulled the Fleury. And he was like 100 and change right out of the box.
So basically, I got the was it really that much back then?
I got my money back for the box entirely and then some right straight from the pack, straight to cash back in my pocket.
That's really interesting because, I don't know how deep you want to dive with this, but I was really hoping we could kind of pull back the layers on this set because I was looking at how much the Fleury was in 2012. And obviously in 2012, the market for cards was like at an all-time low. And it was only $40, $50. Yeah. And, I haven't shown it yet, and not a whole lot of people know that I've got it coming, but it was a lot more than that. Let me just tell you, my Ichiros that I've had stored in a box for over a year, they came in handy.
But that's the thing, though. It's the reason why I brought it up that way, as I said, out of the box, you initially are going to get the big for the bigger names. You're initially because you have to remember the Pens were stacking these draft picks for a while. They were getting all these number one picks or early round picks because they sucked. But the advantage of that was that you were stacking this talent. You had Crosby, you had Malkin, you had Fleury, you had all these guys, and they were hoping it would coalesce and gel. But until it did, so you get the high scores on potential first, and then it dips. And this is like a standard. This used to be. Now in the current market, we're going to find out. We're going to find out where Lafreniere goes. Like this is the current experiment. We need to find out how that's going to happen because now the guys are starting off so high. As years went by, they would go higher and higher and higher. If Fleury came out today with the same hype and the same way he was set up previously, I'd be getting $300 or $400 for Fleury. I'd be doing very comfortably well. But mind you, when I pulled Fleury, I was able to buy the box for like $95. So it was easier for me to make my money back.
Was that
because I was
really how
getting
much a box was back then?
they were you could buy them at like the card show for sub 100 or right about $100.
Why were they so expensive back then? That's what they are now, basically.
Well, but that's the retail price. So like that's been the retail price on them for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was able to buy the box. So I bought the box for about 9500. Now here's the thing: if you try getting Series 1, it's not 100. It's not for now. Remember, I'm talking 100, 9500 Canadian. So knock off about 30% if you're talking
Okay,
US dollars.
so around 150 USD, right? Somewhere in there, 160.
No, I'm saying it was like 95 Canadian.
Oh, 95 Canadian.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you
reverse
said
engineer.
195.
Go backwards.
Okay.
No, go backwards. Yeah, go
Yeah.
backwards.
I thought you meant 2020 this year.
No, in 2020 now you could. I haven't checked. Obviously, it's been now. If you can get your hands on it, I know that some of the guys. I think it was like 120, 130 a box Canadian, which is probably about 100 US, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I said, back then I'd get them for 95 Canadian, so maybe that's about 60 US. give or take.
Okay. Now that makes sense. Okay.
So that's
Thanks
what
for
I'm saying.
clarifying
Reverse
that.
engineer the exchange rate, and you'll get to where
Yeah.
you're
All
going to
right.
need to go.
Well, I mean, I could see that. That's like a
Which isn't so bad.
Yeah.
It
Not
wa-
bad
that
at
wasn't
all.
about $100 Canadian is not bad. That's not you're not going to get that today. And
No.
this is not a strong rookie class. Like after Lafreniere, it's like, could any of those guys become a guy? This is where the prospecting thing comes in. If
Right.
you avoid Lafreniere, and you play the field, you can probably maybe one of those guys takes off, and you actually do quite well.
Well, and that was what I was thinking because there's nine or 10 goalies. I think nine. There's nine goaltenders this year in Series 1. I'm like, every single one I was able to get for $5 or less.
It would surprise me.
That's in my mind what's so cool because you will never see a baseball product be released like a top Series 1 or Series 2. There's always at least one guy in there like Lafreniere, but sometimes multiple. You can't just go around and get every rookie for $5 or less, so it's I found it to be fun. It'll be fun for me to follow the careers of DiPietro, for instance. I know he's probably the best out of the whole class, or oh gosh, I almost said Mrazek. That's incorrect. The goalie for Colorado starts with an L. He played in the playoffs for him.
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't be able to tell you that one.
And
I'd
I'm
have to-
disappointed
I'd have
in
to look
myself.
back on it.
It's the only one that's not here. I've got them all on my binder right now except that
Okay.
one. So, but
But
I mean,
you
other
basically,
than that,
you
there
also
was
built
that.
a master checklist as well to keep track of the goalies, right?
Yeah,
Which is critical.
yeah, my buddy on Instagram sent me the master list, and just today I went through and highlighted everything that I needed, and I think I'm down to 40 left or so, something like that.
So here Paul is giving a little bit of insight because I knew it was in the price range. I wanted to make sure I wasn't completely off. Seems to recall 120 for this year's initial release, but closer to 160. So what happened is as soon as the secondary market got a hold of it, and this is interesting. Like I said, the reason why I say this is interesting is because this is on the strength of technically one pull. Because
Yeah.
we're really just talking about Lafreniere right now.
Right.
Because that's all we're discussing at the moment. And 120, 130 DNA and Steel City in US dollars. So like that's really strong pricing out of the box for what currently now this could change. Right now, if you pull Lafreniere, you're happy. You pull for somebody else, you're a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Because
But
you
it
just
almost makes sense to hold on to everybody. How could you sell the young guns right
Yeah.
now? You're not going to make any money back on them really anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And that's where we're kind of monitoring a lot of these here. Okay, retail 80 US. Okay, so that makes it mathematically that's in line with what's been traditional, and then but what's going to be interesting, and obviously it's changing as we go along, is what the secondary market is, and I'm guessing that's what that 120 to 130 is. So probably it was 80 initially, and then 120 to 130 once the secondary market started kicking up, which makes sense. That sounds about right mathematically.
Okay, gotcha.
But that's what happens. That's
Interesting.
what traditionally you would have a window. Because the Toronto Expo used to be like the time where they would bring out some of the Upper Deck series.
Right.
And then what you would do is if you went there and the dealers would have cases. So you could go and usually, especially the dealers that had a lot of allocation, you could go and absolutely go nuts.
Really?
Oh, sorry, retail boxes. Thank you, Vinny.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I was just double checking. Yeah, that's current pricing. So $80 for a retail box. That's actually pretty pricey.
Yeah,
Mind
and
you.
I've watched a few YouTubers opening hobby boxes, and I'm like, that is what you got out of that. Like, I think there's a guy, Ziri Gaming. He's an interesting fellow.
He's a fascinating dude. Yeah.
No, he's got some interesting humor, but he does a great job and edits his videos, and he goes through the packs quick. He got his first exclusive in box 10. out of a case of 12. I'm like, geez, no wonder those sell for so much. It gave me an appreciation for the exclusive parallels that I've been able to find. Of
You got to
different
make
guys.
the YouTube. You got to make the YouTube money to save it. Can you say Tuukka Rask and do it really slowly through an edit, through a sound edit, real slow, just do it real slow.
He's got that accent too, man. I got to
Yeah.
give the guy credit. He's definitely he's an entertaining box breaker. So
I will say, but he's a good example because I used him. It was funny you mentioned him because I've used him as an example. Because I was talking to one of my buddies here, and he goes, "Well, Canadian, it's tough in Canada's a little bit niche." And I go, "Yeah, it is, but like a guy like Ziri Gaming does fine. Like if you talk about YouTube sports card YouTube numbers, he actually does very well, and he's doing only hockey cards because the kids enjoy watching his videos. The videos are fun to watch."
right.
As a kid enjoying, the sounds and different ways he does the voices and
Yeah,
he talks about, but that's all it
yeah.
is. Like it's entertainment. It's an entertainment product, and he's providing that. Now, mind you, those boxes he's paying for are expensive.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
think YouTube's really covering that.
Probably not. Probably
I don't
not.
think so.
But I mean, people have. I can tell people enjoy his stuff because he gets a lot of fan mail and he gets these amazing cards from people. I'm like, geez.
Well,
That's-
because
that's-
once you establish a following and people really like you, another guy that gets a lot of that is Packer Cards 87.
I haven't heard of him. No,
Well, he's got about 60, 70,000 subscribers.
that's pretty
He
impressive.
does pretty all right.
Yeah.
Like I said, in sports card YouTube terms, that's pretty all right. He does pretty
Yeah.
good.
I keep going through in my head though, as you've seen that interview series that I know we're going to chat about. I feel like I would rather put something unique like Ziri Gaming. He's got his own like unique way of doing videos, and he's got a big following. But yeah, I'd definitely rather do something that is unique and something that I enjoy rather than conforming to the people that have thousands and thousands of subscribers. There's plenty of that out there already.
Yeah, but I give those. But I get, like I said, Ziri Gaming is a good one. He's a good example who has been successful. He developed his own style.
No, I like it.
You can watch his video. If I just play the sound of the video and you're just looking away, it's his video once he starts naming off some players and you hear the sound.
Like the beginning, yeah.
Nobody.
Exactly.
But once you've got your unique sound, that's
Yeah.
okay. That means it's uniquely you.
Absolutely.
So I showed it obviously, but good evening, Joe, and also good evening to Bobby. So how successful was Arnold Schwarzenegger at talking with an accent? It's true. It is true. Although they did dub him in his early ones. Go check out. There was a Hercules movie, an early Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that you heard. They totally overdubbed him. They didn't even want to deal with his accent at that time.
Yeah, that's kind of funny how that worked out for sure. But yeah, no, I just have found the Young Guns set to be so, as you saw, I was on Dave's channel there, fascinating because and it does, that type of set doesn't exist in football, basketball, or baseball. Nothing like that exists, and because there's so much, like how many flurries do you think were produced? 10,000, but they sell for a lot. They sell for a lot. So you just don't see that in any market. You're never going to see a base Acuna. Trout's like the exception. You're never going to see like a base Acuna sell for what a flurry does. I don't think you're ever going to see that.
Well, I think aside from basketball, because
Yeah.
because the Luka Prism does just fine, and there's almost 15, 20,000 of those, and we're just talking PSA 10s. We're just talking PSA 10s only.
But I mean, that really goes into the demand for those base cards being higher because they're obtainable and they're always available. And I think the Young Guns set has taken advantage of that fully. And I think it's awesome, man.
Well, the
it's
thing
really
is,
cool.
for Upper Deck's flagship product, like in the most simple terms, for a flagship product, it doesn't hurt that it's 1 in 4, 1 in 6 packs. It means you've at least got a reasonable shot. Like it means, yeah, you're going to get a Lafreniere in a box, maybe not, but it's not like it's going to take you 10 cases to get a Lafreniere. It's not impossible. You didn't overdo it to the point. There's enough of them floating out there where it's like, no, it's still a good pull. But at the same time, it's not an impossible pull. It's not like, oh my God, I will never get one. It's like, no, you could. If you're that determined and you buy a couple of boxes, you can probably get one.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. And just to kind of bounce off of Bobby's comment there, goalies get all the love. That's been what I've found to be, I think, the most fascinating is like, I went out and bought a card of a goalie that I've never heard of before, but the cheapest one you could find was $4. American, and it was from Canada. And the goalies, whether they've played a game or 100 games or 1,000 games in the NHL or 500 games, they're always going to be expensive. And expensive is in like, a $5 card should not be a goalie who's never played in the NHL, but it is. So I find that to be really strange because you don't see that in baseball. You're not going to see a pitcher who's never pitched. You wouldn't have to pay $5 for his card. You could pay $1 or 50 cents.
It's true, but I will say, though, that kind of to Bobby's point as well, is that I used to know guys whose collecting genre, what they decided to do, was literally goalies.
Yep.
That's why Between the Pipes exists.
Right.
There's literally no other reason for it to exist aside of the fact that, okay, this is a set that's literally for you guys. Yep. This is for you guys who like to collect all the goalies. You don't care what team necessarily. You don't care what era. We'll give it to you all.
Yeah. No, but the cards themselves artistically stand out above all else.
But that's likely a factor in why there's some interest. Goalie is kind of a glamour position for some of these fans and some of these kids, where they look at the art on the masks. It's the equipment is different than all the other players on the ice. They're the only ones who have that much equipment, so that's part of it too. It's different.
Oh, right, for sure. And it's just been so much fun to kind of unearth the stories and learn about these guys because I just, again, I find it kind of, interesting and also sad in a way that these really, really amazing talents come into the league and get drafted and never get a chance, whether it wasn't the right opportunity or they just had too good of a player in front of them. Look at all the Carey Price's backups that have been drafted since he started for the Canadians, you got Caden Premu there. You had Charlie Lindgren there. You had, Jan Denis. You've had a lot of good goalies go through Montreal, barely got a chance to play. So
no, that's fair. And one thing I'll say here for Joe's thing, and Paul is alluding to this as well, where we are right now, hockey hasn't quite felt it to the same degree. But what we're finding right now, a lot of times, is that, and this is very important. We want to make sure we acknowledge that if Steve was here, he could school us all on the hockey knowledge.
He's a closet Avs fan.
No, he's a closet all hockey fan, Matt.
He's
an encyclopedia. Literally, he sends me pages of notes. You guys should see the PDF files I get from Steve. Correct? No, Carlos, that is not. It's in 1947. The Toronto Maple Leafs as the Toronto St. Pats. I'm like, for God's sake, Steve, you don't have to show off. Chill out. It's okay. Jeez,
cute. That's funny.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, and Zachary, is it Focale? Is that? Am I pronouncing that right?
I genuinely have no idea.
My dad, if he sees this, he's gonna watch this later tonight. Mm-hmm. I got to give him a shout out. When I was 5-6 years old, he would show me these cards of these players. Be like, all right, pronounce this name. I was like, okay, Mike Vernon, easy. Tom Barrasso, easy. And then he showed me this guy from Philly, and it's Dominic Rousseau, and he's like, no, Dominic Rousseau, and he would just work through all these cards, and so I've had a lot of fun picking up these cards and trying to learn all these names.
So hold on, we got to go to the chat here for a second. There's some very important things that are being clarified here. So first, good evening, Vinny. How many Young Gun collectors there are besides Steve? Of course, absolutely. And of course, we got to say here, without a question, without a doubt. And also, good evening, Jeremy. Good evening as well. I don't want to ignore you, but it was important that I get some of those comments in there. And as usual, Steve loves us. So I for one, appreciate that he's here. Where else would he be? He's got to be here for this. Yeah. It's important.
For sure.
Absolutely. So, yeah. No, it was important. We had to get that comment in there. It's very critical. It was imperative.
Well, I'm trying to pretend like I'm schooling Steve right now with all my goalie information. I know he's taking notes. I don't think I knew how to say that name.
Yeah. But meanwhile, he's like, oh, that's so cute, man. That's so cute. I've written books on this,
Of course. I'll have to buy it. If he writes one about goalies, I'll definitely purchase it.
Yeah, he goes under many pen names. If you go to the hockey reference section, it's basically all Steve. There are no hockey writers. It's pretty much just Steve ghostwriting for everybody. It's weird.
Focale won a gold with McDavid in 2015. Interesting, huh? Yeah, it's again, it's so much fun to kind of uncover the stories about those goalies, and when we talk about my new endeavor into the YouTube world, I can dive into why that's exciting.
So let's do this. Let's do 2 parts to this. So first, we'll start off. So now let's segue into YouTube. So let me grab these last couple of comments and let's segue into YouTube for a minute, okay?
Perfect.
So first, Steve, we will always give you full credit. Always. Without question, we will cite our sources on all this, on all our knowledge. Yeah, and it's true. But to be honest, the French names sometimes are tough in general. Like, unless you're Quebecois or unless you are more familiar with rolling them off the tongue a little bit, it is kind of.
Well, I will say to Bobby's point, I mean, as a lifelong learner and a teacher, like an elementary school teacher, man, you tell me once how to say it correctly, I will probably be able to do it right, at least as best as I can. So feel free, man. Feel free to school me. I like being able to get them right, especially if, you know.
So you want to spell it phonetically? Just like spell it phonetically if you can.
Yeah, with the brackets, get it all broken up, please. And
exactly.
That would be great. Thank you.
So first order of business. Let's quickly. So I'm actually going to share the screen here while we're talking. Let me kind of pull this up here for everybody's benefit. Let me go Chrome tab. Let's do that. Okay. So first we got the Essential Credentials YouTube page here. So this is Matt's YouTube channel. So let's start off with this first, because right now this is your your first project. We'll discuss the other one in a second. But first, right now you're doing a little bit of a 2020 kind of collector series, like an interview series. Do you want to explain that a little bit and elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I've always had a big interest in trying to be really formal with my interviews. All the other episodes on the podcast prior to that series have been a little more less formal, to say the least. You know, we've kind of just been having fun and just seeing where the conversation goes. But I've always had a big interest in watching interviews with, you know, whether it's an athlete or an actor or somebody, and trying to uncover their stories. And so the 2020 interview series has been focused on the experiences that collectors have had this year, because as we all know, 2020 has been one of the most volatile, exciting, stressful, sad, amazing years of collecting for most of us. And I really want to uncover some of those stories from these individuals and trying to cover a wide variety of people, you know, because Brent, you know, a good friend of mine, is a pretty unique guy, a storyteller. Then you've got Ryan, who has kind of found his way back to the hobby within the last couple of years, and then Reese, who's been able to focus on one player throughout the entire year of 2020. And you're just like me, like you're focused on a player, but you kind of like veer off and pick up these cards like Jamie Benn, and then you veer off over here and get some Juan Soto. So anyways, I'm really having a lot of fun so far, just getting these collectors to tell their stories, and it's not about me, it's about them, and just trying to ask, you know, questions that'll really help them, you know, uncover all those fun stories from this year, or heartbreaking stories for that matter. So
no, that's fair, and I always enjoy a series that has a little bit of a theme to it. But one thing I'll say as well about Brent's to your point from a second ago, yes, I do like to grab some of these other pieces into it, but it's mostly for I would really, in all honesty, it's for adding a little variety, because I have been collecting the same player for 25 years. Right. The ability for it to go, like, for somebody who collects it for a couple of years, I can sympathize. But once you get into a couple of decades of collecting a player, imagine if that's all you did. How stale that would get for you. Like, you need a little bit of variety just to spice it up, because it's one of those things where I'll keep collecting. So the reason I've never gotten burned out is because I did not allow myself to get bored. I gave myself these diversions intentionally, understanding that I'm going to do this for a little while, get my second wind, and then be able to come back with fresh eyes on the collection again. That's what's allowed me to continue and sustain over time. It's not uninterrupted, but it never really stops.
Well, that explains nice little card on like a card that I was like, dude, because you've been looking at them for, you said 25 years, like that really paints the picture for me, because right now with A-Rod, I'm 5 years in, and I get cards and I'm like, this is an exciting card, but I've kind of like, you know, switched gears, and so I completely understand it. I'm with you on that. It's the
definition. It is genuinely the definition of the marathon versus sprint. Like it's said so often now, it's become a cliche, but it's true. Like if you're, the reason it's become a cliche is because people say it all the time. People like hear it and go, yeah. But it's like you're not like actually it's accurate. Like if we were actually telling the truth, a marathoner doesn't sprint a marathon. You can't. Right. You have to have a pace that you can maintain. You can have moments where maybe you'll accelerate to try to maybe catch another runner or something.
Right.
But like you cannot do a sustained sprint, otherwise you'll drop dead.
Dude,
reality.
I went way too hard, way too fast
Yes.
when I got into the Young Guns thing for about
That
3
always happens.
days, and
100%
it
of the
burned
time.
me out so bad that I finally took my first day off from teaching last 2 Fridays. Yeah, last Friday, and just like I don't want to think about cards. I don't want to like. And you're right. So it definitely happens, Carlos.
Yeah,
Definitely
and every
happens.
single time somebody starts a new collection, so I've got a video that I'm going to be working on that I'm going to try to get out this week that touches on this, and I'm going to have a little fun with it because
Good.
I'm going to spend the majority of the video not talking about cards. It'll only be in the last couple of minutes where I'll tie it back into cards. It'll actually be me talking about music for a while. But there is
Nice.
a point that actually relates to the cards by the end. So we'll get there, but you have to hang in there in order to kind of get
Right.
the point that I'm trying to make with the actual card-related piece. It is
Right.
a video about cards, but it'll spend a good chunk of the time talking about music to get to cards. We will get there.
No, but
it'll
that
take
those
a little-
stories are always exciting. Like when you're teaching somebody about anything, it's fun to like tie it into something else, even though it has nothing to do
Yeah.
with the original topic. At
And there
first.
is a theme to it. That's why I enjoy like a series like this is fun for me, and Brent's one in particular. And I'll bring up Dave's comment again because it is literally the best synopsis of what I'm talking about here.
Yep.
What has sustained me over time, and literally over time. Once you get past about 10 years, we're talking time. It means you're devoted to a task. But what has sustained me over time is that I never lost sight of the vision, but I'm willing to go on the scenic road. I'm willing to go on a little road less travel. And the whole time I've been collecting, I enjoy Brent's stuff because I started off collecting vintage baseball. I still do. You just don't see it because I'm not buying stuff all the time. But I'm still looking. I'm keeping an eye on certain things. I've got projects that are sitting there on the shelf waiting for me to come back and revisit. There were so many good Medano cards, though, for a last while that have come out of the woodwork where I'm like, okay, I need to concentrate on this right now because there's some good pieces that I haven't seen in years.
Nice.
But once that calms down, which is now starting to happen a little bit as we roll over the calendar in the new year, and I've bought some of the big grails. So it's like, okay, there's a couple out there still that I have my eye on, but I can actually chill a little bit. And now in the new year, I'll be able to start hitting on some of those vintage cards again. Because now it gives me an opportunity to be like, okay, and I'll still pick up the Medanos along the way, but now I've actually had the satisfaction of knowing I've taken care of some of these big holes in the collection. Now I can grab some of these other ones and fill out some of those vintage sets. But the other reason why I enjoyed Brent's thing is that he explains a lot of his collecting philosophy and a lot of the relation to it. And I've also enjoyed looking at his various forays into Latin America. In
Absolutely.
particular, the Panamanian collection. But I laugh because I haven't said one word to Brent about it. But I laugh every time I see it because it's like, dude, I got this for you. I am Panamanian. I could wear my Team Panama jersey. At some point, I'll be like, all right, Brent, I'll wear my Team Panama jersey. We'll talk some Panamanian baseball.
No, you should. I think he would love that, man.
Yeah.
He's super into how that ties into his collecting habits.
Yeah.
It was
Although
really
we
fun
don't talk
to-
about Mariano Rivera. He's a traitor. I refuse to. And he's a Yankee, so forget it. Double disowned. Triple disowned.
Favorite team's the Mariners. Second favorite team, whoever's playing the Yankees.
Correct.
So,
It's like,
there you go.
but that's the thing. Like, number one, he didn't play for Team Panama, so he doesn't even count. He's like a fake Panamanian. He doesn't even count. And he played for the Yankees, so that's like double baseball disownment. I don't even want to discuss this man. He disgusts me.
there you go.
The best Panamanian pitcher is Bruce Chen, and fight me.
Hey, he was a nice guy. I mean, really good guy on the field.
It's true.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am looking forward to having Bob Lewis on Wednesday. I've only met him once in person on Dave's podcast, but
Right.
and this is no offense to anybody else that I've not asked yet, but when he came on, I'm like, man, this guy's fascinating. He collects everything. His Instagram is the most unique that I've seen out of anybody because he posts pictures of like, look at the stash on this guy, like what? But it was really random. But he's been able to like collect across the board all over the place and still enjoy his collection. And I find that fascinating because I have to have some kind of focus or goal. No matter what it is, whether it's Rick Ankiel or Jocelyn Tebow or Young Guns goalies or Alex Rodriguez or Tyler Glasnow, I have to have someone that I enjoy watching that I'm collecting, and he's just kind of everywhere, which is cool. So I'm really excited to have him
I think
on.
for some collectors it works better because they bore really easily, and if they bore really easily, I'm not going to tell them they're wrong because they're not. If it works for you, whatever that is, So I just wanted to have a little fun because Bobby gets it. It's like, Bobby, don't tell them about the new movie. We'll get to that later. We'll discuss that offline. Still in negotiations. We don't want to get there yet.
That's funny.
But no, the thing is that if you go along and you see a lot of these collectors doing it in different ways, part of the reason I enjoy the series is some of these guys I know, some of them I'm not so familiar with, but I'll still listen in and kind of hear how their approach has changed. The 2020 thing has been an interesting theme, I will say, because it is interesting because from the perspective, from a strictly collecting perspective, this is the best year I've ever had, like comfortably. Not even within like twice or three times as good as any other one, like comfortably. But it's probably a consequence of just the way it's turned out. Some people have decided like this is the time they want to start putting some stuff available that they've kept hidden away for years. So it's suddenly been available. So I'm like, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take one of those. And do you have it in red? I'll take that one too.
That's true. There's been more out there than there's ever been. I mean, it's been overwhelming at times. You know, sure has been. Yeah.
No, I appreciate the baseball references, Joe. So I'm more than happy to share those. But the thing is, for a lot of these conversations, like I said, especially so far, my favorite still is Brent's because it hits on the notes of like Panama, which is me, and then baseball. I was like, oh no, now you're talking Panama and baseball. It's like we're good. There is a semi-proud Panamanian baseball tradition. It's basically Rod Carew. And I still appreciate Bruce Jen. He's like, no, but I'm saying, like, you know, and I appreciate Bruce Jen, just personally. I appreciate Bruce Jen. But
never said on a podcast before, but there you go.
Yeah, well, somebody has to appreciate Bruce Jen. Someone has to appreciate
Somebody needs to, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I have a question though before we move on. It just is something that's coming to my mind. You talk about not getting bored. Like, how does somebody who's collecting Mike Modano for 25 years enjoy what he has already? Because, you know, if you were on there right now, and so I'm basically pretending I'm interviewing you, but I'm curious for you to tell everybody else, because like you've been collecting them for so long. Do you enjoy the cards as much as you did 15, 20 years ago, you think?
So I would say yes and no. I appreciate the overall picture that it's creating. I appreciate the curation more. I appreciate the whole more. Part of the reason we joke about the nice little card, but it's because the individual card doesn't excite me per se. What excites me is maybe this is a particularly difficult issue. And I know this is a difficult issue. Maybe this is a particularly rare set where the serial number doesn't tell the whole story. So I understand more about what this card represents. That patch card that I picked up in one of the recent sets, to a lot of other collectors, like if you go get a Chicago Blackhawks patch from the last 5 years that's got all the colors on it, it is a vastly superior patch. But I understand how hard that 99 2000 set was. I understand how difficult it was to get that patch. It's not the patch. It's the fact it's that one. And it's that difficult to get.
Okay, gotcha.
And when I showed that picture on Instagram, a guy from, I want to say Finland, who used to be a big-time Modano collector, who had more Modanos back then than I have now. That's how hardcore he was. He sent me a picture of that card, not the exact same copy, but that card along with the one of one, because he used to have both.
Jeez.
So he was a hardcore collector. But seeing it inspired him to reach out and say, hey, I used to have this one. And I'm like, show me the picture. And he sends over the picture. I'm like, that's sweet. Because he used to have the one of one as well. But that's because he knew how difficult that card was. And that's the point. Okay. When you know, you know. So that's why I say the individual card, it can be what it is. I've got one of ones. I've got all this stuff where it's like, it's cool. I enjoy it aesthetically. I enjoy it from the curation perspective. But you could say the card is $10,000, and I'm like, you could hand me $1 million card. I'm like, okay, cool. It's a nice little card.
But I mean, but the reason I asked that question is this: I think perspective is everything, sure. And when you collect Jocelyn Thibault, who my collection's in the mid 400s, like 450ish, 470. It's amazing how when if you and I were to switch perspectives, how you would oogle eye at certain cards that you're like, holy smokes, man. A, Thibault doesn't have that card, and B, if he did, that would be like number 2 or number 1 on the want list. So that's why we joke about that, I think, is because it's interesting seeing a collection like yours through your eyes on your videos, where you're very much, just like, oh, that's a nice card. Next card, nice card. And I'm just like sitting there like, oh man, I think I'm tired from looking at all that sickness, It's pretty.
But it's all
pretty
relative,
impressive.
right? To like a Gretzky
Yeah.
collector, it doesn't even register.
Oh, jeez,
Like,
I can't even
that's
imagine.
that's the thing is it's all relative. You have to consider everything. But mind you, when I see the to your point though, I get what you're saying. But to your point, if I was a Jocelyn Thibault collector, I would appreciate that they've curated that Medano collection over time.
Right.
And I look at it. But here's the funny thing. Jeremy is a big fan of a lot of Gretzky cards and things, and there's some really high end cards. And Jeremy is a huge fan of the Gretzky rookie. Huge fan of the Gretzky rookie, a big proponent of it for collectors. I've had two of them in my hands, and I sold both, and I regret nothing. It didn't mean anything to me.
Right. That's true.
You know what? Gretzky rookie, nice little card. Like whatever.
Can
like,
you title one of your videos that exact phrase, please, for me?
Maybe
in
I
the future?
will. But the thing is, it's not the value. The value doesn't mean anything. To
Right.
me. I don't care. If you give me a Bobby Orr rookie, I'm like, I actually would prefer it to the Gretzky, but it's obviously more expensive. But I would probably prefer a Gordie Howe one to that as well. But the reason why is because I also think about the era that the card's in. The 66 tops Bobby Orr with the wood grain border. I actually just aesthetically prefer that card. So that's as much the reason why, as much as if we flip the prices, my feeling would stay the same.
Right.
The Gretzky rookie card could be worth more. I enjoy the 54 tops Gordie Howe. I think that's a phenomenal card. I think that's a fantastic card. I love it. Some of those early Parkhurst, I love those cards. I think they're great. But it depends. It's not the value, it's the card.
Well, but no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you have to have some kind of an emotional connection to the cards that you have in your collection. That's I don't know if you watched the whole interview with Ryan, but when I got done interviewing Ryan, I sold the rest of my Ichiros minus maybe 10 because I was like, look, I haven't pulled those out of a box in a year. I was like, I might keep these. I kind of like them. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I love the Young Guns collection and where it's going. I love collecting goalies. You know, I've had so much fun looking at them with my dad on camera and showing him. The Ichiros, I don't look at them anymore. I don't love them the way I would love the goalie cards. And my buddy Tyler, who was in the chat earlier, said the same thing. He's like, Matt, you got to go for what you love. And Ryan kind of put the button on, and I'm like, that's it. They're gone. And it was a very easy choice, and one that, like you, I sent out some pretty nice ones, and I'm like, okay, I don't miss them.
Like I said, it will always depend. Let me grab a couple of these comments because some of these are actually pretty good. I like this. So Bobby asked the valid question. I would say investment-wise, sort of. You know what? Actually, I'll say yes, only because if down the road Juan Soto becomes the player I think he could be, some of the cards I have may hold some value. I don't know if they will or not. The Pujols cards have already started to appreciate because I already know he's a great player. He's a Hall of Fame player in the making. So investment potentially down the road. So yes. In acquisition-wise, no doubt. Best year, no question. Some of those cards, you know, to pretend to talk like the kids, it's like hot fire, flames, bring everything, all the emoticons you want, all the emojis.
Invest.
But like some of those cards. 20 years ago, I would probably have gone and an entire village of kidneys would have disappeared mysteriously. Allegedly, has nothing to do with me. For legal purposes, has nothing to do with me. But they would have all disappeared because I would have wanted those cards. And the fact that I can now have them is tremendously satisfying to me, even if I'm not jumping up and down and doing cartwheels. I'm too old for that, Matt. I can't do it.
Yet. No, you give it time, buddy.
I don't do enough yoga to do that. So let me grab this. So Autograph Guy was one of the folks that I think was here early on. So no, I appreciate it. We have topped that though a couple of times. Autograph Guy, you got to check some of the older ones as well. Dave knows though. You know, I am far too excitable. I do need to take it down a couple of notches. You're right, Matt. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm way too excitable on the mail day videos. Way too excitable.
Okay.
So no, Autograph Guy. The thing is, it depends on your aesthetic. Like for me,
right.
I appreciate the Gretzky rookie for what it is. I appreciate it. But I've had two of them, and it's like...
But, I mean, if you handed me a Mike Modano card that was worth the same as that Jocelyn Thibault I didn't win, remember I sent you a link and showed you how much it sold for?
Yeah.
I'd be the same way. I'm like, okay, that's great, but I want a card that I'm going to love the way he collects.
But that's the way it works. It's
Yeah,
not the name. It shouldn't be the price. For some people, it is, by the way. If you hand them a card that's expensive enough and you tell them it's expensive enough, they'll get excited. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm like, okay, well, I'm happy for you, but it doesn't excite me. Yeah. I suspect I'm not the only one, but I clearly don't need one because I had two and gave them both up without hesitation. And I gave them up before the price really went crazy because I would have made a lot more money today.
It's too bad you still don't have your Flurry Ricky. That would have been a better story than just buying it from the guy I did.
It is true. Like it was a
awesome.
fun pull, but at the time the price was right at the time. Obviously, 3 Stanley Cups later, you could have done a lot better. But
That's true.
I don't live. This is more of a philosophy piece, kind of playing to your series. I don't live with regret. I sold the Mahomes Donruss rookie PSA 10. I had a PSA 10 that I bought for less than $15 on ComC. Got it graded, came back a 10. I sold it for about $200. At its peak, I could have gotten 1,000.
Right. Well,
I move on with my life. It's already done. Deal was done.
I sold the Ichiro Project card #1 for $90, and I was like, "Wow, that was pretty exciting." Whoops, it's worth over $1,000 now.
And it happens. Like a grand one way or the other is not going to change my life. It is what it is.
Yeah, right.
Vintage cards and their survival rates carries a different perspective, no doubt, without question, Bobby. You're 100% right. For Joe, vintage basketball's been hitting the spot, and the thing is, Joe, if you enjoy it, there's no wrong answer on that one.
Mm-hmm.
The Ami 85-86 Donruss is growing on me. Vinny, hold out. I think if he keeps playing his cards the way it is, it could be worth at least 40, 50 cents by the end of the year.
Oh, that's fun.
I got some serious question. I think his performance is dropping as we go towards the end of the year.
I just want to say that Vinny, he's one of the nicest guys ever, man. He really is.
I wouldn't doubt it. No, Vinny's great. He's always around. But like I said, Vinny, hold out. See if you can get it for cheaper. See if you can get it a half price sale in ComC or something. just saying. Hashtag invest. There you go. Nice. What do you think about the 82-83 Grand Fear rookie card? I actually like the year. I like the design. I do like the design of the 82-83 because if it's the one I'm thinking of, I think it's got the team in a yellow font. I have to go back. I can probably find one on eBay and look it up, but I think that's right. And it's actually really nice. I actually like the design. Grant Fear doesn't do anything for me personally, but I think it's a cool looking card. And I think at the price point, considering he's a Hall of Fame goaltender, I don't think it's unreasonable. I think it's a nice card. Paul knows. Hashtag invest.
Oh gosh. Can't stand when I see that in eBay auctions, but it is what it is. I almost want to do it just to be one of those people, but I can't bring myself to do it, man.
Yeah. So Autograph Guy has a YouTube channel, the Jersey Videos. I haven't seen it yet, to be honest with you, Autograph Guy. I remember you mentioning something like that. I'll definitely try to check it out. I'll just have to try to remember to look it up and see. But if it's a pro model signed jersey, it's pretty good. Actually, that reminds me. I've got to do a video because I do so many videos on the cards, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I've got autographed Medano stuff that's not cards. I've got autographed jerseys, plural.
Be nice to see.
So I've got it. Yeah, I think that'll have to be a video at some point. I keep having to remind myself, hey, I should do a thing with the jerseys and stuff. That'd be kind of cool.
Right.
But
yeah, that would be nice. Something different. You got to keep it. You got to mix it up.
A little variety is always nice.
I agree.
Yeah, and the thing is, Jeremy, I think Jeremy is the kind of guy who would appreciate the Gretzky rookie is a perfect card for Jeremy because he likes it, he enjoys it. But I think part of the other reason is also he has more memories of Gretzky the player. I have memories of Gretzky the player. I watched him throughout the 90s, but that's different than Gretzky in the 80s.
Yeah, for sure.
I think if your memories are Gretzky in the 80s, you're going to have a much stronger attachment, I think, because Gretzky in the 80s was playing video game numbers. By the 90s, at the beginning of the 90s, he still had a little bit of that left, but by the middle 90s, he was an excellent top-tier player, but not video game numbers anymore.
Right.
Which is not... that's no slight on him. People get older and the game changed. Also, we went into the trap era, so all of it contributed to knocking back plus injuries and age and everything.
Right.
But he was still a very excellent point-a-game plus player. I think he was a 100-point player in his later 30s, which is still great, which is greatness. That's still greatness.
He's the great one. That's why he's the great one.
Smitty just says, thanks, Matt. Absolutely.
Now, I'm excited. I got, I'm really wanting Vinny. He and his daughter, he's got his daughter into opening cards with him, and I'm trying to motivate him to do a video series opening cards with her because kids need to be part of this hobby too, man. Can't just be for a bunch of old farts like us.
Yeah, so Paul says that's 81, 82 a peach. Okay, so I was remembering a different year. Okay, no, that's very good. That's completely fair. Absolutely. No, not a problem. Just getting through all the comments here. Jumping a pack of 85 O Peach and got a Pele Landberg. That's a cool one. Yeah, good 85 O Peach is actually a pretty good set. I like that one.
Yeah, that big white mask. Really big
I think at some point, would you consider going back to some of the 80s and 70s goalie cards? Because there's some cool ones, I think, from those eras. And they're not too bad, depending on the player. Some of it's not so bad.
I think if I can find a connection, if my dad was like, oh, man, I used to love this goalie, you should get a couple cards of him. But I have one vintage card, and for me, it'll stay that way unless I pick up maybe a Mario rookie. But it's the Patrick Wawa-Peachy. I mean, that's like such an iconic card.
Maybe the way to work with that is don't just grab any journeyman goaltender randomly from a mid-1980s set. Maybe get a guy who has a little bit of a story. Maybe a more interesting goaltender.
Right. Well, and that's where I'm trying to take, my new project is looking at the stories. But yeah, we will, as my dad would say, we'll see. But we'll see if I go that direction. I mean, I just think there's so much to uncover. There's so many goalies that people in this chat, people that watch this, have never heard of, that were amazing college players, that were really top tier talents, and whether it was an injury or a sickness or just the wrong situation or too many good players in front of them, never got the spotlight.
Yeah.
And
I
they
think,
did,
I think you will discover, and I'm going to zip through a couple of these comments here, but I can promise you some of those goalies from the 80s are going to fit that criteria when you get a chance to dig into them, because some of those stories are legitimately interesting. Just grab this one
I see Bob Lewis in the comments. Bob,
I'm getting there. I'm trying to get to him.
Check your Instagram, Bob. I need to get a hold of you, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to him. It's like, I agree with Dave. Like, honestly, just not enough. Between the live streams and regular videos, this is like my 15th or 16th video this month.
Yeah, that's
pretty good. I feel like it's been prolific.
Impressive.
It's been pretty prolific, especially this month too. So, good evening to Bob Lewis. I wanted to make sure I got to your comment, Bob, as I was trying to zip through it. Yeah, no, I think, like I said, I think it's era specific. I can appreciate Gretzky. I can appreciate his greatness in the abstract. But he didn't excite me as a player. But that doesn't mean he's not great, because statistically he's great. Objectively, I can look at the numbers and go, we have to concede that he is the great one for a reason. We can acknowledge that. Even if personally he didn't do much for me. So I think that's fair.
It's just the same thing as his rookie card, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. Exactly. Mr. Lewis. Yep, and here's Jeremy's comment. Grew up in Winnipeg and probably saw Gretzky live 10 times. And that'll help. Because if you have that extra appreciation for it, and you have the ability to go back, hockey pulls in the 80s, his assists were kept separate from his points to make it fair. Because he was putting up video game numbers. Yeah. He got 200 points in a season. Nobody else was doing that.
The way that team played, they were completely on another level.
The 1980s was a cheat code, and the 1980s Edmonton Oilers was a double cheat code. Yeah. So it's one of those things, like, he's great, but then he's also surrounded by great players, which amplifies his greatness. He amplifies their greatness, and it all goes together to make an offensive machine. You have to factor that in.
Yeah, I watched the Grant Fuhr documentary, and they went into detail about how good that team was, and it was fun to learn about that team, because it kind of before my time, before I really got into it.
Yeah, here we go. So here's Bob's response to you.
Oh,
okay, so there you go. He'll reach out.
Perfect.
So
awesome, dude.
Perfect.
Awesome.
That seems generic, but I know what he's getting at. I'm going to leave that one alone.
I'm not even going to talk about that.
I'm not going to dredge into those waters, but I am amused. I still showed it, but I am amused.
Let's keep things positive here.
We'll do it for now, I guess, Matt. If we must. Anyway.
Don't make me go full teacher mode on you here, Carlos.
That's okay. I ignored my teachers. I can do it. I can do it again.
Oh, great. Well, I'm used to it. So
Exactly. So plus at the expert and other podcasts. Yeah, it's true, man. Honestly, I got to get on YouTube more. It's ridiculous. This YouTube hiatus I've been on. It's awful.
I know. Get it together, man.
I know it's true. Yeah, 200 points 3 times. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. There you go. But it's one of those things where no, you acknowledge it because you're looking at it and it pops off the page. But Gretzky in the 80s almost ends up, I think for me, he almost ends up like in the Wilt Chamberlain problem. It's like you can look at the stats and go, he averaged 50 points a game. But what era was this in? Mm-hmm. What am I looking at here? And what were the goals per game, which was off the charts in the 1980s? What makes it interesting, and forget about Gretzky, if I exclude him from the conversation, just exclude him from the conversation. If I look at the all-time goal leaders, the whole list, Ovechkin is basically the only guy who didn't play in the 70s, the 80s, or the early part of the 90s in at least a piece of their career, either the beginning, the middle, or the end. Gretzky played at the end of the 70s, the whole 1980s, and into the early part of the 90s through the rest of the 90s. So obviously he got to reap a good benefit of that. Those were offensively strong eras. The only guy who's outside of that is Ovechkin. He's the only guy who's in that top grouping who did not play in those eras. And that includes Yager, who started in the early 90s. But at least he got that first piece of the 90s when the offense was still off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it is interesting because all those other guys, none of them played. Ovechkin started in the mid 2000s, 2005. He's the only guy.
I find it kind of funny that his Young Guns card is still as far behind Crosby's as it is.
I think the gap's closed a lot. I think the gap has
well,
closed a lot.
Him winning the cup, that was a big factor for sure. And now he's closing in closer and closer to the all-time goals record. I think, I don't know if he'll ever get there, but if he ever does, that Young Guns card will probably be the top dog unless Crosby and the Pens, hopefully go Pens, win another cup.
I think what makes it interesting for him, though, is that he's the only guy who has a legitimate shot. The way the game is played today, 50 goal scorers are scarce.
Yeah.
So it's like Gretzky had I want to say 92 goals one season. So you're a 50 goal scorer plus tack on 42 more. That helps. Yeah. That will immediately jump you, add more and more numbers on it. So it's like you're looking at a less offensive era. There are still goals scored, obviously. It's not the trap era. It's better than that. But it's not it's not the 1980s. It's not wide open like that. Yeah. So we don't get that kind of thing. So let me go in here. Okay, so let me grab this real quick here. I am going to address it just to nip it in the bud right now. So let's do this. Okay, let me handle this one. So Autograph Guy, I'll be 100% honest with you. I've never met Baseball Collector, and I did a video talking about one of the videos he did, and Dave knows the video because it's I think the one where he was introduced to my channel. So I'm very fair. I'm firm, but I'm fair. So because I don't know the guy personally, I can't speak to his character. I have no idea. I can tell you how he comes off to me, but that's a separate conversation, separate from this conversation. But how somebody comes off in a video, and I've done a video about this, how somebody comes off in a video is like cheating because we can change how we look in a video. Mm-hmm. I have fun on my channel, and I have fun on Dave's channel, and I have fun on a lot of channels, but I can be 100 times a bigger jerk than Baseball Collector could ever hope to be if I feel like it. And I would enjoy it and have so much fun. But I don't do that because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, what's the benefit? So when I present this presentation to you, just be aware that I am presenting a presentation to you. Now, if you go and hang out with me and we're having a pint, I'm not going to be fundamentally different than I am right now. I'm not. But I'm also not going to be exactly the same as I'll present myself in a live stream. Does that make any sense? Of course. So take everything you see on YouTube with a grain of salt. I have my perceptions of them. If I met him in person, I could make a better assessment, but I also wouldn't go on YouTube to give that assessment. Does that make sense? So it's that wouldn't be my place to do that. I'm not going to be as positive as Matt is. I'll call him out if he needs to be called out, but I'm also not going to go out of my way. It's not worth my time.
Well, I will say again, you've said it. People in videos are different, and
you have to be careful. You always have to be careful.
I'm overly positive, but I think the only thing I'll add to that is I get annoyed by collectors who act narcissistic because it's not. I'll just be honest. It's not all about you. Sorry, it's not all about you. You get so much more out of the hobby by being excited for your friends and your buddies and fellow collectors than you do getting excited for your own stuff. That's my approach to collecting, and that's what makes me enjoy it the most. And so that's all I'm going to add to it. I don't know the guy. I don't even subscribe to him. I know he does some sort of YouTube Hall of Fame thing, and the channel was nominated with a couple votes or something. But I just kind of there's certain YouTubers that I just know I won't take the time to watch their stuff. It's not my cup of tea, and I enjoy the people that I watch on YouTube. It's for a reason. It's what's in here, man, that really makes a difference to me. So.
Now Mac just giving you the Mr. Rogers version. Let me give you the other version. It's as Dave knows, my arrogance is part of my shtick. Don't wreck my. If he is actually stealing my arrogance, I haven't watched his videos in a while. But if he's stealing it, I will sue. It's my shtick. I've got this down. I've got this locked down. I refuse to have someone else take my shtick for me. Got to protect the intellectual property. Got to protect it. So let me grab a couple of these comments here. So Bobby says, "Oh, you never had a team around him like Oro Gretzky." Yeah, but the thing is, few do. Imagine trying to build the 1980s Edmonton Oilers today. It's almost impossible. It really would be impossible. Too many. Think about it this way. For a little while, Messier was the second highest scoring player of all time in points. He was on that team. Yuri Curry's a 600 goal scorer. He was on that team. The highest scoring defenseman of all time was Paul Coffey. He was on that team. That's not fair. It's not fair. Like, you can't.
They run a whole
that's a
nother
one
level.
team. You can't build a super team like that now, even if you tried.
No. Well, the talent gap is so much smaller now.
Correct.
So many good players out
Yeah,
there.
and that should be fair. I just want to zip through a couple of these comments here. And the thing is, and actually Bob's comment here, the reason I put it up here is this, is that his point is as valid as anybody else's. There are people who like Mike for who he is, good, bad, or indifferent, but who have also met him in person, they like him, whatever. I seen enough that I don't believe I would like him in person, but I wouldn't be a jerk to him to his face necessarily, because I don't see. But I also wouldn't hang out with him. That's just my personality type. He's not the kind of person I would want to hang out with. That's personality type. But I also wouldn't go out of my way to be like rude. If he came by and said hi, I'd say hi. If he wants to sit down and have a pint, we'd do it. But that's just reality. But you're not going to get along with everybody. That's part of the deal.
But I mean, if there's people you don't enjoy on YouTube or whatever, then don't watch their videos, and you'll never think about them. You'll never talk about them. You'll never. And then if you do meet them, you've never seen all that stuff. So I mean, I think I saw him at the National. I was like, hey, how's it going? And then I just went about my business rather than like, oh, it's you.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't spend 2 seconds on that.
No,
and like I said, there are people in the
that.
community who I do get along with, or at least I have friendly conversation with, who are also friends with them. So being a jerk to them is actually not beneficial in any way.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, but again, who cares?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, absolutely.
Spending your own time thinking about somebody who drives you nuts is
No,
don't even
it's not worth your time.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. You've never spoken about him. That's right. That's right, Dave. I agree. The difference between Ovi and Crosby would be a team fan base, yes. 3 cups and a couple of Olympic golds, yes. Canadian fan base, also true.
Can I chime in on that before you show another comment?
Yeah, go for it.
And I'm curious what people think. I've been fortunate enough. I have a Carey Price Young Guns in hand. I love the card, and then I have a Fleury on the way. I'm just going to say it right now, and I love Fleury. He's my favorite player since I started loving hockey again when I was in high school and college. The Carey Price should be a more expensive card. But the reason it's not is because Fleury's got 3 cups. Carey Price, I don't care what anybody says, since he's played, is the best fundamental goaltender in the game. But he's on a bad team. He's never won a cup, and he's a very soft-spoken guy. He's not out there. He's not always interacting with fans. He's just a very good, easygoing guy. So his cards are cheaper. Makes no sense. Like when you look at talent.
Unless a player is statistically dominant in some way or has a ton of Stanley Cups or something,
right,
then popularity is relative. It depends. Sometimes people just like a guy. Ovechkin broke the mold for Russian players because people like him. Yeah. Like, as a personality, they like him. Traditionally, a lot of Russian players don't have the personality to carry, but they had the talent. They had the skill. Ovechkin has the skill. He's got the talent, and he's got the personality.
Yeah.
Crosby's got the talent, but he's boring. He's ridiculously boring.
I mean, he gets the job done, baby.
He's boring. He's a great player, but he's boring.
You know, it's funny because a buddy of mine, Ryan Scripter, he and I had a really interesting discussion about the Rays being a boring team. And so, you know, I completely understand that, and it's like saying to a Canadian fan that Carey Price is a boring goaltender. They'd be like, "What are you talking about? He's the best," you know. So, yeah, I have to sit here and defend my guy. I can see where you're coming from, though.
The thing is, you can defend your guy. But if you said Ed Belfour's psychotic, I go, you're damn right. He's out of his damn mind. I'm surprised he didn't get arrested. Multiple times.
I was going to say, hasn't he been?
No, but I mean, like, multiple times per season, per, month, per, game. So it's like, he's out of his damn mind.
He's a good goalie, though.
But that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, both can be true at the same time, Matt. Both things can be true at the same time.
Oh, I completely agree. But I mean, I tend to go towards players who, you know, that's why I like Crosby on my team. But again, he's not a guy or a player who I'm like overly enamored by. I mean, obviously goalies are going to take that, but Fleury's got that fun-loving, exciting personality. You know, he's got.
But that's what I mean. Yeah. But that is subjective. So I'm saying, here's the deal with Crosby. He would be the guy that you'd watch play, and if I was a fan of the Pens, I would enjoy him. But if you wanted to come and have a pint with me, I'd be like, no, I'm good, bro. So it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, again, not knowing him, I saw him play one time. It was it's the most recent hockey game I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Before I left from college, I saw Crosby play, and you know, this is coming from a guy who's not a diehard hockey fan. Okay, I'm a basketball at heart
Yeah.
fan. He was faster than everybody on the ice, and he's out there skating with Malkin and all these great players. He was faster than everybody, and I was just, you know, from a new fan's perspective, completely overwhelmed by his talent. And so I think a lot of us more casual fans have that approach to it. Whereas, you know, if you were to ask me, LeBron James, a big basketball fan, I'm not going to tell you I like the guy at all. But
No, but I'd have a
hell
pint
of
with him
player.
because I'd have a pint with him because he's a well-read dude. I would actually have a very
Yes.
interesting conversation with LeBron. That's what I mean. This is the difference. I can have a very interesting conversation with LeBron, and I think it would be an interesting conversation.
You know what? It's you don't know somebody until you actually try to get to know them. So maybe you should try to have one pint and then decide from there. Huh?
All right, I need to know I need to know Crosby's feelings on existentialism and nihilism. I need to get him started there. So Dave, listen, Dave's channel is the most serious on YouTube. Say horrible words.
After or before he burps.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, so here, never go to YouTube. I just want to make sure we get caught up here. So never go to the YouTube channel, call somebody out. Oh, no. But the thing is, there's no point. Like, why? Like, if you literally go to somebody else's channel, call them out, that's means you have too much time on your hands.
Oh, there was a great video by, oh, man. Who was it? Oh, man, I think his name is Xavier. What's his channel's name? He has, Snoop, I think, right? Oh,
Okay.
man. I don't know if you've been on his channel. He put one up there and he put all these guys on blast and started cursing and stuff. It made me laugh so much. I was like in tears at the hilarity. It's almost like he went so far that it was funny. You know what I mean? Like I forgot about it actually being a serious rant video and just started cracking up because it was so completely out of left field, you know?
Yeah.
It was good stuff.
So I believe this, Bob. I believe you. I do believe you. I believe Bob is. I believe his channel is an accurate representation of Bob. I believe that's fair. All right, so let's go here. Yep. Sure. So collecting at its core is generally a selfish endeavor. It can be. It can be also a solitary pursuit. Kind of depends on how you want to approach it. It can be. But Bobby's not wrong. It can be.
Can you leave that up there for a second? When I saw him, I can see the comments here. When Bobby put that up, I mean, generally the way we collect is interact as collectors now is on social media, right?
Yeah, but that's an optional thing, though. So general is general, and I know tons of collectors you will never see or hear from. They will never come out and see the light of day because they want to pursue it They want to pursue it quietly. I did that for most of my collecting career.
Right. Well, from my experience only, I don't have any experience with those guys, but from my experience, there's two different people. There's you post something on a group, and 5 people comment and say, "Dude, that is amazing." Awesome. Congrats. And then there's the one guy that goes, "Oh yeah, well I have the Griffey and a PSA 10." And you're like, that's not why I made my own post. So I think those are the people that are more selfish and narcissistic than the people that are there for the community. But again, to each their own, dude.
Yeah. But I think one thing that's understated sometimes is that there is a very large contingent of the collecting hobby who just wants to collect in peace.
Yeah.
You don't see them on message boards. They don't do YouTube. They don't do Instagram. They don't do whatever. Yeah. They just get the cards. They get the cards that they want. And I did that for the majority of the time. I am on the message board that Jeremy owns. That's Hobby Insider. That's where a lot of the hockey guys congregate.
Nice.
I've been on it since 2004. 2004, I have less than 100 posts in 16 years. The last time you go and find it will probably be like 5 years ago. I don't post. Instagram works for me because I can do it on my schedule and my time. YouTube works for me because I can do it on my schedule and my time.
Right.
If I have the time and I'm sitting down here, I like this stuff because I like playing with the camera. I like playing with the microphone and setting everything up and making it look and sound as good as it can within reason.
Right.
Obviously, I could pay more money and make this more expensive than it already is. It's a second hobby. But I enjoy and I enjoy producing the content in this way. Because there is, if somebody gets value from it after, great. I made the video earlier today. I set up the microphone, I got in front of here, and I talked for 13 minutes. And all I did was explain what I read in the article. And for some people, that was the first they heard of it. Maybe they got something out of it. Maybe they didn't. Mm-hmm. But if they did, great. But now they know. And now they can ask more questions. They can look it up. There's the value. Maybe you get it. Maybe you don't. Mm-hmm. But it took me only a couple of minutes to do that. I had the time. But I've gotten some feedback back that some people appreciated, that I brought it to their attention. Now they can look into it more themselves. Right. That's content. But it's optional. You don't have to do it.
Well, I think you see a lot more collectors doing it this year than any other year, and that's
Sure. Yeah.
what's going to be. I really want to try to get somebody on there before I'm in the series that has recently kind of gone to that endeavor of YouTubing and Instagramming, because that's I've had plenty of conversations with people who I've bought cards from, and they've talked about, yeah, it's just really not for me, and then they eventually start doing it, and you're like, oh, okay, you actually see that it's a fun way to interact with other collectors. And yeah, I think you've seen a lot more people start doing it now than ever before. I'll tell you that.
I think a lot of that's been the time that they have to do it. But like I said, the reason I started doing it, and I said this kind of, I made it sound tongue in cheek, but I was actually kind of serious, is that I started to get irritated with the kind of content I was seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to do this better. Because I'm like, I watch the content, and I would listen, and I'd watch, and I'm like, this kind of sucks. I kind of need, if I want this done right, I might just have to do this myself.
Right.
So then I produce the content that I want to see. And that's the approach that I take to the whole channel. It's like, I'm producing the content I want to see. And if other people like it, cool. If they don't like it, that's cool too. That's fine.
Right.
But I'm producing the content that I want to see. That's why I don't try to replicate somebody else's content, because it wouldn't make sense coming from me. You already have it. Just watch theirs. You're fine.
Which is still funny though, because the amount of box breakers out there are through the roof, and you see some of them with thousands and thousands of subscribers, and but yet it's the same as everything else. And so I have.
But
really
people
tried,
enjoy it. If you want the maximum amount of views, it does work. It does work.
I mean, yeah. So I guess it's just, are you willing to do what everybody else is doing, or are you wanting to try something more unique? And I think that's, to kind of segue my own thing, if you don't mind, is the reason that this YouTube, the YouTube channel idea came to my mind, because partly because of Brent's ideas, and partly because I've always had a fascination in learning about the stories behind players, and especially the goalies that I collected as a kid.
Right.
So yeah, that's going to be unique. I know that there's nobody out there that's doing that, and very few people that have the Young Guns Master goalie set. So that is going to be a fun thing. You kind of motivated me to do the whole overlay, like say how many cards you're at, what percentage of the set is done, what do you.
It's interesting to see progression.
Kind of approach.
It's interesting to see progression, because then you get a sense of where you are in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is intentional. It's twofold. Number one, it's a time capsule for me to know where I was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But also number two, for somebody watching, it's oh, they've been at this for a while. Oh, okay. Hey, wait, when I watched last week, it was 1,000. Now it's 1,050. Oh, okay. Progression. You can actually kind of like measure, even if you're not intentionally paying attention to it. You can be like, oh, wait, the number was higher than last time. Yeah, okay. Okay, I get that.
One thing I think would be fun to see, I mean, again, this is only a suggestion, but I think it would be really cool to see at the end of, obviously, a lot of us collectors that do YouTube are going to do like a top pickups style of video. I think that's more natural, but I think it would be really cool to see something from you like, here's where I'm at the end of 2020. This is what I'm aiming for maybe in 2021. Like, obviously, you can't make this many autograph cards pop up. It just has to happen. But it'd be kind of cool to see where you're at goal-wise after 25 years. Like, okay, where does Carlos go for Modano now? Is it just like anything and everything I don't have? Or is it like, this is the focus, this is the focus? I don't know. I think that would be really cool to see.
You're describing the year-end video.
Well,
no, that like
good.
I have it's on the pipeline.
Good.
The point this month, what I'm trying to lay the groundwork for, I'll let you in, and the 19 people watching, I'll let them in on a little secret. The goal this month, the part of the reason I'm doing the reflection thing is twofold. Number one, I spent too much damn money last month. That's number one. So I want to chill out a little bit. That like there's a practical aspect to this. Number two, I like making the videos, so that's kind of fun for me. So that gives me a way of doing it without spending more money. So that's number two from a practical perspective. But number three is that I always do a year-end recap anyway. But this year I can take the year-end recap and go, all right, this is the goal. And I think this will be the third year I do the goals video, which is great. Because it's like, all right, these are the ones I didn't make. Part of the reason for that is because I went after the Modano so hard because the opportunities were there. But let's reset. Let's take a look. Do I still want to do this same? Do I want to finish the set? Do I still want to do this thing? Do I still want to do this thing? What's the plan? Because for a long time it was getting just autographs. I focused on that until I hit my goal. Then I said, all right, let me open it up. It's going to be predominantly playing day stuff, but which one in particular? Let me segment it into this more specific thing that I can finish by the end of the year. Because the collecting all the Medanos I can get is going to take years. It's going to take a lifetime. But I can be more specific. By the end of 2021, what would I like to have done? Is there a number that I want to reach? Yes. Can I do that? And then I can outline all that in a video. That's going to be part
cool.
of the video.
Cool. And I think just for me, I find it fascinating. Again, I didn't know you'd been collecting for so long. I thought maybe, off and on, but I didn't realize, 25 years. And I think it's really interesting.
Well, the collecting has been 30, but the Medano's been 25.
All right. But just, to be collecting one player for so long and to still find A, enjoyment, B, have goals for it, and C, is there a stopping point? And thankfully for you, you got a player who gets thrown into that, that one-on-one you got. I was always so interested to see, when I first sent it to you, how and when is he going to get this? Because it deserves to be, from what I know, I thought it deserved to be in your collection. I knew you'd appreciate it a lot. But interesting, you always have stuff like that to chase still. So is there ever going to be a stopping point, So I just I find all that stuff really fascinating for somebody who's been doing it for that long.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And I think it's a valid question. I'm going to get to the comments, guys. I promise. I'm not ignoring them. I've been watching them. But I don't want to stop Matt when he's in the middle of explaining a couple of things. And I think it's a good conversation. But I will say this. The short answer to the question is when I get bored or I'm dead. And I haven't gotten bored yet. So what is that? But that's because I know when to change gears. Let me borrow a poker term. I know when to change gears. So I don't drive myself into the ground until the point that I can't.
Yep.
I have a good sense of actually, I'm getting a little burned out on this. Let me switch. We're going to work on this set for a while. So just chill on this. Let's work on something else. And that's how you keep switching and changing it up. That's why I'm not focused on one task. It's no, I will get bored if I just do that nonstop forever. It won't work. Okay, we got this here real quick. So, yeah, Coffee did get traded in 87. No doubt. But the thing is, he did play a good chunk of the 80s with that team, and it was an excellent team. Hall of Famers all over the place.
Probably the best hockey team ever.
So let me address this one real quick because I think there's an educational value to this. So hang in here for a second.
I appreciate that.
Okay. So his autograph guy's question from however many minutes ago it was a while. I apologize. It took a while for me to get to it. So do you think a 52 man will change baseball collector? I think he means the 51 because the 52 is a card that I have. It's an awesome card, but 52 isn't really the big one. 51 Mantle is the 51 Bowman is the rookie card. Do I think it changed him? No. Why would it change you? You are what you are. Getting an expensive. I've always found it interesting because I have watched some of baseball collectors' videos in the past, and his style is very much here are the cards that I'm picking up. Here's a card. Here's a card. Here's a card, which is fine. But it's not interesting for me. It's not compelling viewing. I'll watch it for a couple of minutes, and it's okay, I've gotten my fill of this. This is about it. Again, I don't care how expensive the card is. I want a 51 Bowman Mantle because at some point I'd love to do that set. That Mantle will cost 5 figures. It will. Now, it doesn't bother me because if I want the card badly enough, I'll make it happen. But you have to understand that that's the game you're getting into. It is a 5-figure card now. If you want it, not torn in half. So, you have to understand that that's what you're getting into. But I'm also a guy who has, from time to time, also collected watches. And some of my dream watches are $40,000 and $50,000 and $60,000. So if I flinch at $10,000, what am I doing looking at watches?
Yeah.
So it's all relative. It depends. And for some people, that's a pittance too. So it depends. So the point is, did it go straight to his head? Well, I doubt it. I think he is to Bob's point, he is what he is. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But that's a personality thing, and that's on you. So that's kind of the short version of that.
I've got a friend who bought a couple of mega expensive cards, and I'm not going to say what they are because it's not my place to say what they are. But
it's Donruss Greg Jeffries. Don't lie to me. PSA 10. Yeah. I know it is.
I think it was a Joey Cora rookie, Tiffany PSA 10, but
almost as prestigious. Almost.
I mean, Joey was man. I mean, I wouldn't say that person's changed because I know what who that person is and what type of person they are. So, I mean, I wouldn't. I think it just depends. If you get changed by a purchase that you make, then that says what it needs to say.
I think that would be hilarious. I genuinely hope that's true. Here's the thing. If that is the case, I genuinely hope that's true. It's okay, I'd like to see how you change. You spent a bunch of money and that changed you.
Yeah.
Spent your money. You spend your money.
Money does weird things to people, man. I mean,
but it's the spending of money. It's not the getting money, Matt. That's the point. Like,
but it's having a card that's like, ooh, this guy's so cool. He's got this big card. Who cares? It might as well be a Joey Cora rookie for Pete's sakes. Who cares?
I feel bad for you if you think buying a card makes you cool. That would be your first problem.
Yeah.
I'll just leave Dave's comment here. I won't read it. I know what he's getting at. Okay. So real quick here, I want to zip through a couple of these real quick here. So yeah, and the thing is, Paul, that's an aesthetic thing. Like, I like Ovechkin's game. I enjoy watching him play. Crosby is a great player, but I enjoy watching Ovechkin play, and it's fun. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yep, absolutely. Blame Steve. That's important. Belfour is Steve's main collection. Coincidence? Absolutely not. Absolutely. Now, I did want to make sure I get the sequence in here. This is important. Okay, so here we go. So he tried out Snoop's number. Then Bob corrected him. It's his birthday. See, this is what made me sad. So we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, I try, Paul. I try. I do my best. So thank you, Rob, for correcting me. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Amen to that.
It's true. Yeah, here, Bob. Understandable. I was going to get there. It just didn't have enough time. I think I said that, but I don't remember exactly where. Bob, can you tell me exactly where I said that? Because it's a great quote, and I want it on a shirt.
I know what I want on the back, though. I want that can be on the front, but I know what I want on the back with a picture of like a Cup auto patch out of 5 or something.
Oh yeah. No, that sucks. That sucks, man. Kind of sucks, man.
This is a nice little card. Like needs to be like that big on the back.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. So here's Victor. Hey, Victor, just in time.
Awesome
I think I'm almost caught up. Here. Victor actually had a great video recently where he took on the concept of the rookie card again, where he was talking about like the concept of the hobby making a decision about about what a rookie card is. I kind of want to have a little fun with Victor. Victor, maybe at some point I'll reach out to you. Maybe we got to do a video because I'm going to have a little bit of fun. Maybe Victor, cool. The ultimate twist. We'll do the ultimate twist. What if what a rookie card is doesn't matter?
Oh, jeez.
Dun, dun, dun. Plot twist. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to say, if my memory serves me right, Victor, can you please tell me if I'm wrong here? And if I am, I apologize. But I was at the National my second day, the first full day. And there was a guy sorting through some 90s stuff, and I was over there, and I just started chatting with him. He's like, yeah, this and that. I said, have you heard of Essential Credentials? He goes, yeah, I like those guys. They're cool. I said, well, I'm Matt. Nice to meet you. And he actually, I believe it was Victor. He's a super nice guy. I'm like, geez. That kind of started it off, meeting all of these wonderful collectors at the National. Those are the experience that have stuck with me for that entire year ago that it was. Good times.
It could be. The reason why I wanted to have a little fun with that is I would love. Let me just skip ahead a little bit here. Yeah. No, here's the thing. Let me say something controversial. Let's have a little fun. I want this to be your takeaway. This is your controversial moment from this video. Because we'll get to some of the other stuff. Because I still want to get to your new project. We've beat around the bush. We'll get there, but we had a bunch of stuff to talk about here.
Right.
But I want to be controversial. Okay, so let's use the 2011 Topps Update Mike Trout. Okay. So that is considered a rookie card. And like I said, the whole semantics with rookie cards has always been complicated. Because like, what is a rookie card, what isn't, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, there was a certain point in the hobby's history where the rookie card really wasn't a thing. And it was for a good chunk of the hobby's history. Once it became more popularized, we got card shows, we got full-time dealers and all that, it became a lot more important. Let me ask you a question. Let's say we abolish the rookie card entirely as a concept. If it's not a rookie card, that's a label that we put on it. That's a label. But what is the 2011 Topps Update Mike Trout then? It's a card from 2011 from the Topps Update set with Mike Trout on it. Did that change whether I call it a rookie card or not?
Well, is that his first card with an Angels, like an official Angels game, like uniform? Like
for the sake of argument, let's say it is. Let's just say it is.
Okay.
Let's pretend it is. But my question to you is, if I said it's a rookie card, fine. And we agree it's a rookie card, great. But let's say I remove the rookie card concept from your mind entirely. I wipe it. You don't even know what a rookie card is. It doesn't mean anything to you.
Okay.
But it's the first year that he was playing in the major leagues. He was an Angels player, and he's a pretty good Angels player. Do you want the card or not?
Well, I mean, obviously not. I'd want his first card that he ever had made.
Do you? But I'm saying but I'm saying conceptually. The reason I'm asking this question, I'm being very specific with what I'm asking. The reason I'm asking this question is, if you're a collector of the Angels, you probably want the card anyway.
Well,
if you're a collector of Mike Trout, the player, you want the card anyway. The fact that I call it a rookie card and classify it as such, maybe it gives appeal, maybe it doesn't. But doesn't matter.
But that you're going to the same thing we talked about with the Young Guns. You know what I mean? Ben Scrivens. Nobody collects Ben Scrivens anymore. Amazing goaltender, I will say that. 63 saves in a game, right? But people still buy his Young Guns card. Nobody else even talks about Ben Scrivens because it's labeled a Young Guns rookie card.
Agreed. Boom. That was the point I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I'm saying the label has value. I'm not discounting the value of the label. What I'm saying though is it's a label.
Right. No. But it's just like buying a pair of shoes that's got the Nike symbol on it because it's got a Nike symbol on it.
Well, the thing though is it goes a step beyond that though. You're right. I get what you're saying. But the thing is, it was a Topps card with or without. It was a Topps card with or without the rookie card label. It's not even that. It's a Nike shoe with a first edition stamp on it. Mm-hmm. Well, if I remove the first stamp edition, it's still the same shoe. The shoe did not change. It's still a Nike shoe. I mean, it is still a Nike shoe. I'm not talking about brand. I'm not talking about brand. I'm talking about the rookie card label.
Yeah, no.
Which we are assigning based on whatever criteria we deem to fit.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, you shouldn't be talking about that with me. You should talk about it with somebody, like the whole, really stretch it out.
I'm only bringing it up because here's the thing. I get it and I understand.
Yeah.
And I respect it for what it is. The semantics conversation with rookie cards is fun for me. But here's the plot twist. It's fun for me as a semantics conversation because I like semantics. Uh-huh. I genuinely don't care what a rookie card is. I don't care.
I'm going to chime in on that. You collect a player who has one, right? How many Madonna rookies are there? 2?
9.
There's 9. Okay. Really? Gosh,
coincidentally with this number.
I was hoping that it would just, because in my mind I kind of went to his rookie cards.
O-Pee-Chee Premier is his premier card. He's got a regular O-Pee-Chee. He's got a Topps. He's got a Score. He's got a Score American, Score Canadian. He's got a Bowman and another one that I forget.
But I would say looking at Jocelyn Thibault, for instance, his rookie cards don't, other than the one that my dad bought me when I was really young. That one has sentimental value. His rookie cards don't hold any extra value over. I would prefer, my dream card, which you have a Madonna and I don't have yet a Thibault. That card's going to be way cooler than a rookie card. Sure. So I wonder if it has to do with the era you're collecting in. Like if you grew up collecting Mike Trout, well, rookie cards have this aura around them. So of course you're going to be like, oh, come on now, the rookie cards are always going to be the best. Coming from guys like us who grew up collecting in the early 90s, rookie cards were other than maybe Patrick Waugh, Gretzky, and Lemieux, whatever.
I agree with you. The reason why I bring it up is twofold. I actually don't care what a rookie card is, personally, although I do love the semantics argument. I love the semantics argument. It's fun for me. But the reason I bring it up is that if we as a hobby, if we collectively, if we all got in a room, hobby, and the biggest Zoom call of all time, if we all got together and made a consensus and agreed that the rookie card has to be the first year, the player's rookie year, has to be the first nationally pack distributed issue. Again, some of the rules that currently exist, but let's pretend we all agreed. Okay. But we said it's only the first one issued. I don't care who's the manufacturer. If they're the first one issued, it's fully licensed, all the criteria are met, the first one only. 2011 Topps update Mike Trout. I'm just making this up. Let's assume that was the first one on the box.
Yeah.
Let's say we agreed. So, okay, that one is a rookie card. Everything else is a first-year card.
I can agree with that.
But the point is, the fact that we could agree on that means it's, like I said, it's a subjective label. If we said every card in 2011 is a rookie card and we all agreed, then they're all rookie cards. But if we said only the first one is the rookie card and we all agreed, then it's the rookie card. But the point is that label is assigned. It depends on who you're talking to. It depends on who you're arguing with. It depends on who has their stance. My point is, guys, it's literally a label. Well, for a first-year card is a objective, because if it's in the first year, it is a first-year card. Whether it's an insert, whether it's a base card, whether it's a parallel, they're all first-year cards.
Yeah.
Rookie card is a definition that we have to make up.
And rookie cards have so much less meaning now than they ever did because, Bo Bichette, He's plays for a Canadian team. So there you go. I think Boba Fett's an amazing player, but I mean he's got like 100 rookie cards this year.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean that's absolutely ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
You could not. You'd be so overwhelmed as a Boba Fett collector unless you had millions of dollars. There's no way you could ever be like, oh, okay, I want every rookie of Boba Fett. For me, I'm like, I want every rookie of Jocelyn Tebow. That took me $20 and an order off Sport Lots, and I was done. Like it just, I don't know. We shouldn't go any further, but like I get it. It's too many.
The only reason why I brought it up is that it is one of the great joys of my life. How much time I've spent debating the rookie card thing, considering how little I actually care. That's been the joy of my life.
But do you really care very little? Why, like
I do because I love the argument. I will literally argue about nothing. I will argue literally about nothing.
Okay, one of those people.
No,
I'm kidding. That's good.
Because it's the great joy of my time. Because I enjoy watching the other person get wound up.
Oh, well.
Like it gives me great pleasure. It's like if you understood how little, if we just agreed on one or the other, I don't care. Whichever one. You can have six of one, half a dozen of the other, whatever you prefer.
Me and my best friend growing up, we still argue about a ball being foul or fair, and we will never let it go. He says it's foul. I said it was fair in a game we played, and we will literally at his wedding, I told him the ball was fair and dropped the mic, and he still doesn't believe. Nobody believes me. Nobody believes him. It's fun. I get it.
But it's whatever gives you enjoyment. Like it's one of those things. The debate is fun because I enjoy watching how passionate people get about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would remind them sometimes. Okay, let me say this right now, just so we're all on the same page. Sometimes I will say some things provocatively just to get a bit of a reaction out of these folks, but also because I want to remind you from time to time, it's still cards.
Right.
It's literally just a hobby. The reason I say I don't care is because actually, if I walk away from all of this, I was like, guys, I spent years in the darkness doing my own thing. I didn't care. I just did my own thing.
Yep.
But I'm doing this now because it's fun. Yep. I'm having fun. So I would happily have a 4-hour semantics conversation with Victor. That would be fun for me.
You should do it.
Yeah, but the point is we could. But I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, we are not going to agree collectively as a hobby. Because there's so many people that have a vested interest in being like, no, mine needs to be a rookie card because I have 10 of them and I need to sell them, so it has to be a rookie card. So I was like, well, then you're not doing it because you actually want that to be the rookie card. You're doing it because you want to sell 10 cards. I get it.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother discussion.
And Bob, I have no idea. I am offended by your implication that this is not the place that first class people go. Are you suggesting that Matt is not first class? Are you suggesting that I am not first class?
I can dress like
you are not first class, sir? Well, that's probably true. But the rest of it, I take absolute exception to. How dare you, Bob Lewis? Yeah, because of the beard. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Walk away from me. Oh,
agreed. Yeah,
okay,
so that was Victor.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. I'll always remember that. First guy I met.
So Bob collects rookie cards of all sorts. That's fair. Professor Ben Scribbins.
He was the rookie. He was the rookie that I met. See, he was the first one.
No, Paul knows. Paul knows. Perfect. You got this. And of course, Dave.
Yep.
Can't touch the Ziggy Puffy, buddy.
Oh yeah. Well, I was wondering who was buying them all up on eBay. I guess I figured it out now.
I don't know how he does it because Dave collects like 1,900 different players. Like he's the exact literal. You should just interview Dave and ask him how he collects every player in creation. He makes up NHL, creative players and collects them too. I don't know how he does it. It's weird.
That would be kind of fun. That's for sure.
It's weird. It's bizarre. All right, so we got to the end of the comments. We did it.
I'm enjoying all of them because I can see them on my screen over here. I'm enjoying reading all of them. It's quite nice.
No, I just wanted to make sure I didn't ignore them here. Here, hold on. I think I skipped this one. Maybe I did. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's totally a key to megalomania, dude. Could you imagine how insufferable I'd be if I had the 51 Bowman? Oh
man,
dude,
I wouldn't be on this show. That's for sure.
You can't hang with me, guys. 51 Bowman, man. Oh, psh. I'm not
get
dealing
on
with you commenters
get on his level.
I'm not dealing with you commenters anymore. I already think everything is a nice little card. 51 Bowman, nice little card.
That would be a perfect shirt right there.
Agreed. Yeah. No, that's fair. I just want to make sure I included that because it was on there in the comments as well. Okay, so let's talk about this because you are working. You said I think you wanted to work on a new project on the YouTube channel. So what's the deal? Or is it a separate YouTube channel or is it the same?
Well, yes, and I gave it some thought, and I think it would be better to gear hockey videos on a hockey YouTube channel.
Okay.
Just like I did with my Instagram. I mean, you've seen my Essential Credentials Instagram. I don't post there as much, but my Glass Now and A-Rod stuff is there. I thought it would be better to, come up with a new video series that I want to really go dive into, but also to just make sure that the hockey fans that find the channel know that I'm not going to be posting Tyler Glasnow videos or posting A-Rod videos, because I felt like when I started going into the Getting Back to My Roots series that there was a lot of people that were like, well, these are 90s inserts, but I have no vested interest in hockey at all.
I would say YouTube ends up being really niche. It's very tricky to pivot once you've established kind of, I guess we'll call it a brand, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still have that a little bit on my channel, because there's some people who still subscribe to the old Blu-ray videos, even though I haven't made them in 5 years.
Mm.
Because that was the channel earlier, and I have 2 million view videos that are Blu-ray videos.
All right.
So it's like, once you get branded, it's like, that's it. That was 5 and 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't done that in a long time. But I think those ones still pick up subscribers. That's why I laugh. It's like, I don't know what the breakdown is of subscribers to sports cards to Blu-ray. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation. That's why I say, I just passed 2,700 subscribers, guys. I don't know what the combination is. That's the total. I have no idea how it works out.
Right. Well, you're absolutely right. But I think for the Essential Credentials, I'm really liking the style and the direction that these interviews are going. Mm-hmm. I think, Greg, when he was very active in the process of coming up with episodes and being a part of them, he really wanted it to be a kind of a loose conversation, kind of like this, basically like this. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, I when he's off doing his own thing, I like the direction it's going. So I think for the Essential Credentials, it's going to be the baseball and interview focused channel. And for hockey, I want to move it over to, it's going to be called Poke Checking Cards. I thought that was a fun name I came up with. But within Poke Checking Cards, I want to do a series called Beyond the Crease, where I look at not Andre Vasilevsky necessarily or Carey Price. You can find out anything you want about those guys through various videos, Google searches, interviews, whatever you want. But guys like Leland Irving, who is a cancer survivor, who has been playing hockey all over the world just to keep playing, who had the talent but had a better goalie in front of him, so never got the chance, and just trying to uncover his story and show some cards that even exist. Because I guarantee right now, that name, nobody in the chat except maybe one person even knows who he is. And I want to try to bring that.
I think you can get away with it. So let me throw something at you. This is just a general concept. It's just throwing it at you.
Uh-huh.
I think there's a room. YouTube allows it. There is a room. You can be informational. You can be entertaining. You can be both.
Mm-hmm.
There is room for quasi-documentary, heavily researched thing. Because that's what it sounds to me like you're leaning in that direction.
Yeah, definitely.
And it doesn't have to be like long form, although I love long form. I'm a big fan. Steve's going to be subscribing. I think that's what he wrote here. I
haven't even made the channel yet. How can you unsubscribe if I haven't even made it yet?
Unsubscribe, dislike, unsub.
Oh, yeah. Stupid dislikers.
Yeah.
Can't stand that crap.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Dave. Dave, I appreciate it. I give you full credit for it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Especially with the teacher here, I appreciate that too, Dave.
But I will say though, that there is room for that, because once you establish. Now the good news is, to your point, if you establish a new channel, then there's no preconceived notion, so you can go and you can actually experiment. And this is something I haven't thrown out. I don't think I've thrown this out in a while. Maybe I think I've mentioned it on the channel before. I think people sometimes who maybe are on the fence about starting a YouTube channel, remember something. If you don't really understand the YouTube channels and the way that works, think of it like public access cable. Except right now, technically anybody can make a channel. Anybody can make a channel. It can be about whatever. It can be super niche. Now, that doesn't mean anyone's going to watch it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Or maybe they'll catch it and watch it one time and whatever. But if you develop it, the reason why I say public access is that you have the opportunity and the space to develop it and modify it and figure out what works for you.
Right.
When I started pivoting to sports cards, the first couple of videos for a while was box breaks as well. But I'm not a high-energy box break guy. For the reasons we discussed earlier, I can appreciate a great card, a tough pull, all that. I don't do the backflips and stuff. I can't, because I've been collecting too long. Like once you have a one of one, like, what's rarer than that? Like
Right.
what's rarer than that? Or if it's an expensive card, yeah, okay, that's just money. I'm not saying I don't care about money, but I'm saying like, okay, it could be $1 million card. Okay, cool. I'll sell it for $1 million then, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
fine.
it's just like watching Chris Justice was the first guy I ever watched break boxes, and he back then he'd be like, "Oh man, it's a 1-1." 3 years later, it's an even now. He's like, "Oh, cool, 1-1, nice little card." Boom, puts it aside.
But it
moves
gets
on.
difficult because it's like, well,
Yeah.
once we hit that threshold, you don't get rarer than a one of one.
Yeah.
So what's left?
Well, but that's what I'm trying to get at. Like the hockey community, I feel like has been the most pleasant experience that I've had collecting in my almost 6 years being back, and also nobody else is really doing, at least for goalies especially, but in hockey doing anything around that idea. Sure, when I show off, here's the progression of my Young Gun set, and here's the progression of my Alex Burrows collection, or my Tebow collection. All the people that like hockey will be able to find it right there, and they won't, be thinking that I might throw a baseball video. Oh, Matt's got a new video. Oh, never mind. It's Tyler Glass now. To unsubscribe. Like this is ridiculous. I guess I'm trying to just gear it towards that fan base or hockey fans in general.
Well, I will say though that kind of the reason why I mentioned Zeri Gaming earlier is that I promise you that there are more passionate hockey collectors and things than I think are given credit, because I've seen some channels. Now, mind you, right now it's box breaker channels because that's what the kids like, and I
Right.
get that.
Yep.
But the collectors will find, if the content is good, the collectors will find it. I'm a fan of a lot of different sports. Like I said, my okay, I'll use an example. Let me use an example just so we're all on the same page. Jeremy, who was on earlier, he likes to shout out Charles, who's a young guy who collects vintage. He likes to shout him out. I get a kick out of it. I get a little bit of a wry smile when I hear him shout him out, because part of the reason I liked being low-key for a long time in the hobby, and I'm just giving you guys a quick story, part of the reason I like being low-key in the hobby is because when I was in my teens, I collected vintage baseball. I could tell you all about Walter Johnson, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, and go in depth to some of those guys, Jim Gilliam, and some of those guys from Brooklyn Dodgers, New York Yankees, Washington Senators, all that, because I was a baseball fan and I was a baseball history fan. But I got annoyed when some of the older collectors would go out of their way to be like, oh man, it's so great that a young guy's collect. I was like 12 and 13 years old collecting 50s baseball. To me, it wasn't a big deal because I was just collecting. I didn't want to get shouted out. I just wanted to do my thing. As I got older and I went and did my thing, and I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't go out of my way to. Once I got a little bit older, I was turned off with that whole idea because no, I just want to do my thing. I'm a collector. I collect.
Right.
That's what I do. And I have other interests that go outside, and then I collected other things, and all that was part of the story. But the thing is that, to me, it wasn't a big deal that I was a young collector collecting. To some people it was. And I understood. I got it because it was unusual. It's interesting to me. Charles, I think, enjoys it more than I did. So I think for him, it's perfect. I would have been turned off by that if it had been me. But that's my personality type versus Charles's, and I'm not going to project on him. He might enjoy it, and it's great, and it's encouraging, and that's awesome. But 20 years ago, I was that guy. Or 25 years ago, I was that guy.
But
And to me, it wasn't a big deal.
It's the era too, man. I think
Yeah.
with all the social media and like everybody give me attention. Not to say that that's what he's doing. I think that is
I don't
something
think he
that
is.
is.
I think he enjoys it.
looked
I
at.
think he appreciates that he's being encouraged.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I'm not projecting that on him.
No,
I think he
li-
enjoys it more than I did, than I would have at his age.
That's good though, man. But I mean, I have that view too. Like I like seeing people, the youth into collecting still, because the hobby is not geared toward them at all anymore. It
Yeah.
really isn't.
No, for sure. And the thing is, vintage was not a scape that a lot of younger collectors ventured into very often, because it was a little bit intimidating. It was a very different thing. I enjoyed it just because I like the cards, and I still like the cards. That's why I say, like, won't see it on the channel yet. In 2021, you'll see it a little bit more because I think the opportunities are going to be there. And there's a little project that I'm going to be working on that I'll introduce in an upcoming mail day that fits in that criteria. I want to reintroduce it back into the channel, but it's still in line with the channel. Right. I'm not introducing something that's never been done before. So it's like one of those things where it's like, no, I'm not reintroducing something you've never seen before, but maybe you haven't seen in a while. If you go back in the archives, you'll see some. I've shown
Well-
you some vintage cards here and there because it's like, guys, it's always been part of the collection. I've got complete 50 sets over here. Like, it's not new. You just haven't seen it in a while.
It's more about the person that's doing it too. There's a bunch of box breakers like we talked about, but it's the guys like Ziri Gaming and like Fulton Cards. He's another one that I really like. He's a very mellow, laid back dude. I appreciate that. But it's the personality that does it too. So I'm sure people will enjoy it because it's you and not, somebody else.
Yeah.
So
I want to make sure I read this comment. It's very important, Matt. It's very important that I read this comment. It's
I mean,
critically important.
everybody knows this already, don't they?
I know, but like sometimes it's good to remind everybody. The Broncos 79 is a huge and passionate hockey channel. And if I find interesting and informative, this currently finding the radar. No doubt. No question. Without a doubt.
Oh, man, it's setting people up, man.
Yeah, so it's kind of a pulse. The thing is, though, I think that's why the Ziri... Here's the thing. I enjoy watching the Ziri's channel from time to time. I like going in. I like hearing doing the Thomas Tartar. It's funny for like 5 minutes, and then I'll stay off it for a little while. But once in a while, I'll come back, and I'm like, all right, do the thing. It's your shtick. Do it. because he's got a shtick. But that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's okay.
Yep.
So, like, I'm not going to knock the guy. I'm subscribed to it. So from time to time, I can go in and watch it when I feel like it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm in the mood. You know what? I want to see you open a box, Ziri. Let's do it.
Yeah, I just did last couple of days. I watched some open upper deck, so I definitely made me convince myself not to get a box. I just got a couple. My buddy Tyler got me a couple retail boxes, like the little blasters, and it'll be fun, opening a hockey product for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Something different.
I just wanted to include this comment here. Paul, you're 100% right, though. Like, here's the thing. I'm not questioning Charles's passion. I'm not questioning his knowledge of, like, obscure hockey players. But it's one of those things where it's like, and again, I'm not knocking it in any way, shape, or form, because if he's passionate about it, he enjoys it, and he does it and all that, I like it. And if he enjoys getting, but the thing is, when you mention a lot of these obscure people in it, you're showing off that you know these things, but you're still showing off. I read a hockey history book too. Yeah. I used to read tons of baseball history books, and you could talk about obscure players from the Southern League in the 1910s and stuff like that. It's like, you want to go there? We can do that. But like, it means I read a book. It means I read a book. And like I said, I'm not knocking him for doing it because I'm glad he's doing it because it means he's doing his research. But all I'm pointing out is that, like, I'm trying to understand the psychology of mentioning it, because it's almost like you're trying to prove that you know it. And it's and it's like, you don't have to prove it to me. I believe you. If you're passionate about it and you enjoy collecting these players and these things, I believe you.
Right.
And I think that's awesome. I believe you.
You
don't have to prove it to me.
Show it in your videos. Don't. Yeah. If you're coming off as a Mr. Know-it-all, I think that's going to turn a lot of people off.
Sometimes it'll be like, he'll throw in some of these names in the chat, and I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm not so deep into hockey. I enjoy the players that I enjoyed from my era.
Uh-huh.
I don't delve too much into hockey history. I do know some hockey history. I promise you, Charles knows more about hockey history than I do, but he's read up more on it. But I promise you, I know more about baseball history than a lot of baseball people do, because I used to read up on that, and that was my thing.
Yeah.
I like Ty Cobb's era. I like Walter Johnson's era. I like a lot of those things. Those little Southern Leaguers and things from T206, T205, T204, T213. Mm-hmm. Like, I was in that section of the SCD reading that stuff.
Right.
It doesn't come up on my channel.
Yeah. Teach their own, man.
But if I bring Brent on, I'm like, all right, Brent, let's do vintage baseball. Let's go.
No,
I can do it.
You guys would have a lot. You guys would have a lot of fun. He's a fantastic person to talk to, man. Really interesting.
But I always enjoyed having a breadth of hobby knowledge and these different categories in these different areas, because I did collect those. I enjoy them. I still collect those.
Right. No, but then again, I mean, you're bringing up how it's nice to kind of bounce around too.
Yes, a little bit.
Not be focused on the same thing all the time.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to knock a damn thing he does. I'm happy for him, and if he continues to do it going forward, that's awesome. I encourage that because I want to see him in 5 years still doing it, and if he's still doing it, thumbs up.
Absolutely.
So I hate getting attention. Doesn't seem that way. It's like, yeah, no, Dave. Listen, I often think that Dave doesn't want any attention. I know. He's.
I don't think Dave really cares either way. I like that about him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you, Dave. I agree with you, Dave.
That is the most important thing of 2020. Amen
I agree.
to that.
I think it's been a good year for that. Definitely. Captain Puck is along those lines too. Hit subscribe to the Broncos 79 channel, as you should, Paul. As you should. As you should.
That's funny.
But that's the thing, though. It's I always find it interesting. I like to watch because I do appreciate when some of the younger collectors get into it. But sometimes it's like, okay, that's awesome. I'll see it on Instagram sometimes because, and it's not Charles in particular because I don't know. I think he's got an Instagram as well, but I haven't checked out his in a while. But I do see some of the younger collectors, and they'll like put like 50 pictures on one day, and I'll be like, okay, you can dole it out a little bit. You don't have to like take every picture you've got like in this stack and just do them all at once. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but dole it out a little bit. It's okay.
Dude, that's digital censorship, man. That's the stuff that I have to teach every day, every week, and you know, the younger kids, they're figuring it out because they're interacting with it way more than we ever did as kids. Shoot, we didn't even have hardly anything like that other than maybe going to like NHL.com and looking through the stat leaders and stuff like that. You know,
I think though it plays to kind of it's funny because I don't think a lot of collectors are going to like hearing it this way, but in a lot of ways, what the kids are doing is very much what a lot of collectors do when they first get into a project. They go diving headlong. Maybe they don't take 500 Instagram pictures, but they go diving headlong into it, and suddenly it's this obsession. It's this like day in and day night consuming thing. And it's like, okay, I kind of appreciate that. But sometimes I'll sit back and watch. It's kind of a more veteran collector. I'll be like, do you think you can sustain that? Because I don't think you can. It sounds to me like you're sprinting out of the blocks. You're about to get very tired shortly. Your legs are about to start getting heavy. You're going to start getting out of breath. It's like, it's okay, dude. Just chill out. It's all right. You'll get there.
well, I think as a collector who's been around for a while, I mean, I've done this only a couple of times. I think it's not like it's we need to do this, but I think it's something to think about when you can reach out and give them a helping bit of advice. You know, like there was a guy posting really good cards on Instagram, really nice cards, but the borders, like the tops and the bottom, it was zoomed in too far. So just reaching out and saying, hey, you know, it'd be really great to see these cards all the way. And from there on, you could just see their photography skills improving. Like I feel like it's not our obligation as collectors or people who've been around for a while to do that, but I think it's nice to be able to reach out, you know, and be like, hey, you know, like 3 or 4 really nice pictures are way better than 50 okay pictures in the same day, you know.
I agree with you, but you bring up a very interesting thing, and I appreciate you for bringing up a very interesting thing. So let me ask you a question. I struggle with this from time to time because I oscillate back and forth between a couple of schools of thought. And one of the things is you're right. You can definitely offer guidance. I think there's value to that. But sometimes I'm like sitting there going like, I learned by doing. I learned by experiencing. And I kind of enjoyed that because, like I said, again, this is a personality thing more than it is like a set rule. There's no set rule here. You can take whatever approach you prefer. I liked making mistakes because if I make mistakes, I can adjust, I can adapt, I can learn.
Yep.
I can do it a slightly different way next time because this didn't work. Mind you, it was a different era. You could afford to have more patience because I wasn't going to win the game early. It just wasn't possible. It was just the nature of the beast. You wanted to get the cards. And again, when I was doing that, in my house, we had internet in 1994. I was 11, but we had internet in 1994. I was on eBay in 1998.
Yep.
I was 15, but I still had an eBay account. My eBay account is older than some of these kids.
Right.
So I've had it for a long time. But at that time, there was no PayPal. You wanted to order a thing, you win the auction. Awesome. You got to go send a money order. Go to the post office. Go buy your money order. Make sure you get the right one. Because if you get the wrong one, they can't cash it.
Yeah.
Mail it over to them. They get the money order. They acknowledge the money order. Then they ship you the card. It's a very slow process.
No, it was. I remember. I
It
bought
is
a
the
couple
slowest
cards
slow
back then.
process. So you had to learn patience out of necessity. You didn't have a choice. It's not that you wanted to be patient. I want the card now. It's going to take a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. It's going to take a couple of weeks. And then you would get burned sometimes. And you'd have to deal with all that and do whatever you're going to do. But there was a certain benefit to that. You got to learn it. We didn't have Instagram. You wanted to share your stuff. Maybe you go to the message board. Maybe. It was rec.collecting.sport.hockey. You could go to the Usenet page. Who remembers Usenet? I do.
It's funny.
I do. But that was a different time. It was a different place, and that's okay. Some of these kids, I'm happy that they're enjoying it, but they have access to so much stuff right out of the blocks.
Yeah.
They can have it now,
Right.
which is awesome. That's great. But like I said, sometimes you gotta do it, and you'll learn. You'll learn. You'll adapt. You'll adjust. It's almost like, and I appreciate collectors who do this, but I'm sitting there like, well, you don't have to protect them from everything. I know it's more complicated in a way, but it's like, let them learn a lesson or two.
Yeah, being thrown in the fire is a good thing. I mean,
Once
I'm
in a while,
definitely
it's
somebody
fine.
that can learn. Learn.
Don't
that
let
way.
them get burned for hundreds of dollars. That's not fair.
Well,
like, don't do that. But I mean, like,
right.
if it's a couple of small things, maybe they're learning the etiquette piece. Let them learn it. I kind of took my time with it, and I found it useful.
I think. Well, I mean, I'm from the same mindset. When I'm teaching, I'm not talking them through every step. I'm like, okay, you need to share a screenshot with me. It's like, okay, how do I do that? It's like, no. I'm going to get you started, but I want you to work through how it works and how to actually figure it out, how to get to the end point. Because if you do that, you're going to be a lot more successful at the end of the day. So I've taken that approach, kind of half help. Like instead of giving them both hands to brace them, I might give them one hand and let them figure out the rest on their own.
Well, that used to be the. So when I was very young, and my younger brother and I were learning to ride a bike, that's the way you did it. You had the little. Training wheels on it, but then when you took them off, my dad's thing was he would grab the back of the seat, and he'd hold it until a certain point. He'd go with you, and then as you start to get up ahead of speed, release. Go. You're on your own.
Yep.
Figure it out. Make sure you maintain enough speed to stay upright. That's how those work. Training wheels were on, and then when the training wheels came off, the hands on the back of the seat.
Yep.
I'll help you. I'll get you started. But then I got to release. If you fall off the damn bike, you fall off the damn bike.
My stepdad taught me how to ride a bike, and he was a little bit more harsh than that. He's a rough, tough Alaskan guy, and I had a lot of bruises and scrapes, but at the end of the day, I got it. So
yeah. But the thing is, that's okay. You're allowed. That's just because my dad felt like being nice that day because he was more of the old school himself. But he's like, no, I'll help you out. We'll do it. We'll do it this way. But for other stuff, he's like, no. My dad let us get electrocuted. He didn't put anything on the sockets. I got electrocuted a couple of times. It explains a lot. But the point is that, like, he would allow it. He'd be like, he would literally be sitting there watching me, and he'd be like, I could intercede, or I could just let this happen and see what happens.
You will learn. Paint chips as a kid.
You will learn. You will learn. But you will learn. That's going to hurt. You're going to learn.
Yeah, that sounds like my stepdad. Yep.
But that's the way it was. Like, it's fine. It's okay.
It is.
Yeah,
to
like,
a certain extent, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like you're sitting there, you're overseeing it. He wasn't going to let us, like, just sit there, like, spasming on the floor for an hour. Like, there's a point where you'll intercede.
Yeah.
But sports cards are not that serious. Like, think about the worst consequences. You lose a little money on a deal, something happens, and you learn your lesson and go. I understand why a lot of the collectors are very protective of it because a lot of the kids are very squeamish. If they lose money on one deal, suddenly they're turned off from the hobby forever. And I'm like, well, that means your grip on the hobby was very tenuous at best.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful kids in the hobby, and then every now and then you run into, like I was at the National, there was a kid, he probably 16 years old, joined a group break, paid $100-something for it, hit a Tatis, ran off, sold it, came back, bought into the next break. I'm like, Jesus, is that what collecting is now? Okay, well, whatever floats your boat, buddy. But,
well, that's the structure of it, and I appreciate this reference, Paul. It's a very solid one.
Anyways, I think some good points are brought up there for sure.
Yeah, but I think that's where it's going to go, and I think that's where it's going to be interesting. The only overarching point that I was making earlier with the thing with some of these younger collectors is that I'd be very curious to see where they are in 5 years. I'll be curious to see where they are in 10.
Right.
Because there is a delicate balance, a very delicate balance in being helpful and being like, okay, we'll handhold you all the way through these things. Well, it's like, well, what happens when you get some adversity? At some point, you're not going to be handholding, and then there's some adversity.
Right.
And you've dealt with none. So part of my collecting philosophy today is informed by the fact that I was allowed to make some tactical errors, which means that I can be like, okay, stuff happens, and then you adjust, you adapt, you get better, and you won't make that mistake again.
Well, Topps Project 2020 taught me a big lesson, and it was a lesson I will never forget again. Let me just tell you that.
Yep.
And it was an expensive one, and I'm glad that, in a sense, I needed to learn that because it taught me where to focus as a collector and not to take risks like that ever again. So
sounds fair. So let's do something here. I wanted to show you guys a little something, and I sent you a link to one of these earlier. Not the same thing, but I want to show you something. I received a package earlier today. So at the very tail end here of the pod, we've covered the main things. Was there anything else we wanted to cover as far as a new channel and stuff like that?
I think if people that were in here and people that watch this heard what it's going to be called, and maybe in the future.
Have you actually built the channel yet, or is it kind of still a work in progress?
I ordered a play mat thing, one of those mats that I had designed.
But did you actually order the channel? Did you actually create the name?
I have not yet, but
you might want to do that.
Yeah, well, I will definitely be doing that because this weekend is the first opening episode for it. But I was hoping you could. We've talked about it on here. Maybe you can mention it on your channel in the future. Would be really good. But yeah, it'll be starting this weekend. I was waiting for a couple cards to come in, and they're here now. Especially the Carey Price. That card's kind of going to spearhead the channel with the Young Guns collection. So
that's fair. Really I like this comment. Paul C references himself.
Sounds good to me. Building character, right?
So Paul, I'll tell you a quick story. I'm going to show you a card in a second, but before I do, let me share a quick story. So when I was in university, I was a history major, and it's thinly veiled arrogance. I know it's new for you guys. I know you've never seen it, heard of it, but I totally had it back in university too. So what happened was I started messing with a couple of my professors. I had my history professors, and a couple of them started giving me flack for certain things. So at a certain point, I did a paper where I wrote the paper. And what I decided to do is one of the professors being a bit of a jerk. So I said, all right, I'm going to have a little fun with you. But he was also a stickler for the rules. So I said, okay, I have a question. And this is a citation question. I said, okay, so as long as you cite it correctly in the correct format, you can cite any either published or, created work that fits the criteria to include in the paper. And he was like, yes. Okay, good. Just wanted to be sure. He goes, why? No reason. So I wrote my paper, and in my paper, I cited a previous paper I had written for a different course. So I cited myself in my own paper. And I put, as Carlos said previously, and then I put the quote from my paper in the paper. And he had to accept it. And I was like, yes. And he goes, did you cite yourself in your own paper? He goes, I have to cite the best sources I can get my hands on.
I'm just reading David's comment. That doesn't surprise me. The joy that it gave me, Matt. Yes.
Joy.
Oh, I am sure. I'm sure there's a soft.
They were his rules, Matt. I asked ahead of time. They were his rules.
I can only picture what you would have been like as a third grade student if you were in my class.
Oh, I destroyed people like you. Nothing personal, but I destroyed. Okay. There's a whole valley of alcoholics right now that cite me as their precipitating cause.
I wouldn't let you get to me. It wouldn't happen. I've got too much armor on me from all the other crap. So, what else is new?
I just wouldn't show up to your class. That'd be fine.
Good. More power to me then, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very fitting. That's very fitting for sure.
Yeah. I spent. In Canada, we have 5 years of high school.
Sorry, Paul's comment. You mean instead of did, you mean do, Paul?
No, not yet, Paul. I don't have the 51 Bowman. I said that's going to amplify my power.
Oh,
that's actually going to heighten it. Take it to another level.
You won't find me on this channel if it gets to that point.
I'll be Super Saiyan at that point. Super Saiyan.
That was a good reference. I'll give you that.
This is the low end score right now. I'm at low power right now.
Good, because you need to not be so way up there that I can't even stand being on the channel. You got to keep me around, man.
So the fun part about the high school was that we had the attendance lady, and she basically liked chatting with Carlos Sr. But it became a running joke. High school was such a joke that I enjoyed being like, okay, so here's what I'm going to do, because at the time cell phones, you had the cell phones, but they were still early time for cell phones,
Yep.
relatively speaking. So I had a cell phone when I was 13, which is still early time for that at that time. Now today, every kid in high school has a cell phone. But at that time, it was still a novelty. So I pick up the cell phone and I call Carlos Sr. He'd be at home working on something in the garage. And I'd be like, hey, Carlos Sr. And he'd be like, yeah, what? And I go, listen, you're going to get a call in about 5 minutes. Tell him orthodontics, cancer, whatever. I don't know. Pick a doctor. I don't care. I want to take the rest of the day off. And he's like, sure, whatever. So I go to the attendance lady, and she knew what I was doing. She knew the game I was playing because she kept all the stats. And she gave the stats at the end of the year. She'd have the thing. 5 years of high school, because you didn't have to do 5 years. You could do the 4 years. But in Ontario, you do the fifth year, which was called OAC, Ontario Academic Credits. And that's if you wanted to go to university inside of Ontario.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we had that there. So you could take the fifth year and take courses for that. You needed 6 credits, whatever. Fine. So 5 years of high school, technically. I skipped about a year and a half worth of classes. And after a while, they were like, how many days did you get off? And I was like, you guys were keeping the stats. Why didn't you look? And they were like, so out of 5 years, you only attended about three and a half years? And I go, yeah. And you still and I still graduated, suckers. I'm going to university. See you later. It was so good. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, there's always one or two kiddos like that out there, man, for sure. But
when I got to university, I was on the dean's list and I didn't have to show up to the damn class.
Well, but that's the thing. I mean, if you're not wasting away the talent and the intelligence that you've been given, then it's not a bad thing.
A lot of my teachers were like, look, at the end of the day, as long as you're passing the course, I really don't care.
Well, but in college, that's all that matters. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like I'm not. If I was a college professor, I'm not there to handhold anybody through anything. So
that was the majority of them. The good news is that they led with that. They were like, look, guys, I don't take attendance. So you show up to one class, you show up to all the classes. It's in high school, you would get some of them had like a 15% that they would do on attendance and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I basically would just take a 0 on it because I'd be like, look, guys, I don't care. I'll just take a 0 on it. It's fine. Let's still go to university. Just give me a 0 just to save time. We'll do it that way. I had one teacher that challenged me. One in high school. Just one. It was my accounting teacher. And it was a lot of fun for me because she's a nice lady and I got along with her great. Mm-hmm. But she decided to challenge me one time because whenever we did our class, we do have homework assignments, like stuff we'd have to do in the accounting textbook. And I never read it. I never brought the accounting textbook to class. So I sat beside my buddy, a guy named Chanel DeMel, which was no end to joy for me.
Cool name, by the way.
It was a great name. And his mother is Manel DeMel.
Oof, geez.
And then his dad was Russell, and it was such a disappointment. It was such a disappointment. I'm like, can I rename your dad? He goes, what do you want my dad to be called? Montel DeMel. Come on, work with me. We got a theme going here. Man. We got a theme going here, dude. He's funny. Montel to me. So anyway, I sat beside him, and then she'd always ask questions from the textbook. She'd be like, Carlos, can you give us the answer to number 5 on page whatever?
Yeah. Right.
And I'd be like, oh, I certainly could. But I'm going to defer to my associate, Chanel DeMel. So I'd just be like,
would you introduce him as the first and last name?
Absolutely. Always. Every single time. I did this for weeks. Right. And then finally,
I shouldn't be surprised.
And then finally, she's like, no, Carlos, you are answering the question. Now, I didn't bring the textbook. I never took notes. Whenever she would be like, Carlos, are you going to take any notes? This is accounting. You go, you ever going to take any notes? And I go, don't worry about it. I got it right here. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So she's like, okay, fine. So she decided to challenge me. I said, okay. She goes, no, Carlos, you're going to answer it. And I'm like, and then all the other people in the class were like, looking at me like, ooh, it's high school. Yeah. So I'm just sitting there like, and here's the thing. My exact reaction at that moment was I just looked at her and I go like, really? And she's like, yeah. I was like, this is the hill you want to die on. I'm like, okay. I go, Chanel, can I have the textbook? Because I didn't bring a textbook. She goes, can I have the textbook? He's like, sure. And I go like, okay, what page is it? 347, whatever. I'm like, okay. I opened it up. What's the question? Question number 5.
Yeah.
This question required you to do calculations and add it up and come up to the conclusion. You're doing basically half of a income statement. You were doing half of an income statement on the whole thing. So you had to do all the work ahead of time to get to the final answer. Mm-hmm. I opened it up. I looked at it. I go, are you sure? And she's like, yes, I want you to come up and give us the answer on the board. I'm like, all right then. I opened the textbook to the thing. I walk up to the board. I'm reading the questions. I walk up to the board. I go in. I start writing the numbers. I do the math in my head in about 10 seconds. Add it up. Blah, 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 blah. Circle the answer. Is that the answer? And she's like, yes. Slam the book shut. Okay, we're done with this. Anything else I can do for you? And she's like, no, go back to your seat. Thank you. I will. We never had this issue again.
Yeah, I always, when I hear stories about kids like that from back then, I feel like the regular high school is just not the place for you. You need to be somewhere else.
Well, that was the thing. Like, I enjoyed sitting in the room. I would listen to what they're saying. I would absorb the information. She was a very nice lady, but I was having some fun with her. I go, look, I'm listening to what you're saying. I don't need to write notes.
Well,
Leave me alone.
Yeah, but that most kids you wouldn't be able to believe that it was true. So, anyways, that's why I had to prove it. I only had to prove it once. Then I think as your teacher, instead of just saying, go answer this, say, can you prove to me that you really do have it all in here? And you'd be like, yeah, sure. Boom, 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 boom. All right, good. Awesome.
We just needed to do it once, and after that, I never got asked again. And we were
there you go. Well, that needed to happen then. That was good.
Just one time we had to do it, and then the other one's just stared at me like, go back to taking your notes. Leave me alone.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'll defer to my associate, Chanel DeMel. He can handle the rest of the question from here on in.
Best name I've heard all podcast. Thank you for that.
It was so good.
Man, I thought Dominique Rousseau was going to be the best name I said or heard, but nope, Chanel DeMel.
No, Chanel was a good guy. I had a lot of fun. He enjoyed though. He was a 90% student. Like, he was a very studious student. I was not, because I would keep throwing away these 15 and 20%. So I'd be sitting there. He'd be a 90% student, and I'd be like a 70% student. For 5 years of high school, my average was 70.5. And they'd be like, that seems kind of low. I was like, you do realize I'm throwing away like 15 to 20% per class, right? Literally taking a zero on it intentionally, out of principle. Like, I don't care, guys. Just give me the zero. Just give me the zero. I'll get to university, and I'll be dean's list anyway, and that's what I did. So I'm like, all right, because you don't care about attendance. You just care about the result.
Right. Well, I think I've realized what I need to send you for Christmas then. I mean, I was kind of playing back and forth with McDonald's card, but I make this really good dessert called humble pie, and if you want a piece of it or a whole pie, I'll send it to you, man. They're really good.
I gotta send it to Steve, because, like I said, you have no idea. Pages of text, man. Pages. The man corrects me on everything. It's ridiculous.
It's true. It's the quiet ones, man. It's the quiet ones.
He just hides it better.
I give him credit for that. That's good.
Yeah. But anyway, so sounds good, guys. So last thing I'm going to do here is I'll show you guys a quick card here just to finish this up. I've been having a lot of fun looking at some of these cards that they create. So I sent you a link for what's called President's Choice cards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got that.
Now, cool. President's Choice, what's interesting, this is from Brian Price. Brian Price is the one who used to do In the Game. So that was previously his thing. And then he sold off a lot of his holdings to Brian Gray, who does Leaf now.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yep.
So I'm going to do this one here.
Don't show the one that you sent me, please.
No, this is a different one. This is
good.
This is a card I actually received today. So,
okay, good. Yeah, because I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, you should check that out. It's actually a good card. So let's do this one. Okay, so this one I picked up today. So this is from their Auto Threads collection.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually a game-used memorabilia piece, autographed by Badano. And they did these auto threads, which is actually pretty good. So I wanted to use the image here since it was a pretty good image. But
that's neat.
Yeah, so what they do is these are obviously unlicensed because it's not a licensed brand, not a licensed product. But like I said, it's from his personal collection because he bought a lot of the jerseys that they would use on In the Game.
Oh, okay.
So he still has a ton of inventory. So you got that card. And they make their own cards because obviously he spent years as a manufacturer. So he can still have them made. He has an artist who designs these sets and then uses real product.
That was going to be my question was does he have somebody designing them for him?
Absolutely. So what happens, though, is he can basically make these things sort of to order. So, like, they're not to order exactly. Like, this is not a to-order card. But he can make some memorabilia cards to order.
Okay.
So what happens, though, is when he makes this was for a President's Choice game used in the vein of In the Game used from back in the day. Mm-hmm. So this is the auto threads. And what happens is if it's available, you can pick the serial number. So I got the 9 out of 10.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
So I ordered it ahead of time. But because, again, it is unlicensed and everything. And this is a, 180-point card.
Oh, it is. They are that big. Well, that's
Oh,
good to
like
know.
this is a proper memorabilia card. They didn't stinge out on it. So think of like what in the game used to be, except they're actually numbered serially.
Right.
And what happens is, so these things, I think this was about 80 or $90 US with shipping.
Okay.
So that is almost a piece unique. He does make one of ones. He does make stuff to order as well.
Do you feel like the $90 price point was fair? Like if that was an Upper Deck product, would you?
Oh, if it was an upper deck product, it'd be triple.
Okay, really?
It's actually a good product.
Out of 10, it would be triple for Manano?
It depends on the card. It depends on the year, and it depends on the product. Because
Okay.
if it was the cup, probably it'd be about 140, 150.
Okay, that sounds about right.
So it'd be
All
give
right.
or take. It depends. If it was now numbered to 10. Now remember, when I say like 100, 140, 150, some of those are like out of 25, out of 35. This is a jersey numbered out of 10.
Right.
So if
okay.
it's fully licensed and it's game used, because this is game used piece
Right.
that's autographed.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's like, it depends
Yeah.
on the day, I guess, and it depends on who's buying.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, I've had a link. I don't know if it was you. It might have been somebody else that sent me a link to his store, and I
Well, I
couldn't
sent you
find
one
it.
today, so at the very minimum, at least one of those links was
Right. Yeah, well, that's for sure. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So like
Cool.
one of those was out of 3, so it's a pretty good one. And
Yeah,
you're
I
buying
saw
it directly
that.
from the manufacturer, which is pretty good.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
pretty
so
sweet.
the thing is, I will say that they use real game used pieces because he goes and has them certified the same way you'd have any other one certified. And Brian Price is pretty good for that.
Okay. Good to know. Be
Yeah,
cool if you got him
abs-
on your channel sometime and kind of talked about all that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude. I think he's been around. He was on Jeremy's channel a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Price is Steven Speed. Yes, no question. We all have Steven Speed. Like, if we're going to get hockey dog.
Steve gets a ton of love on this channel. I bet he didn't expect that. Yeah, no. That's
He
perfect.
was from earlier, but I don't care. He's
No,
a
that
great
was
guy.
perfect timing. That was perfect timing.
That's
I'll
the
give
spot.
you that.
That's a spot. All right, sounds good. All right, guys. So I'm basically good for the most part. I think we've covered a lot of the main pieces. I showed off a card that's a new one for me from the collection. Is there any other questions or comments in there? I had a little bit of fun. I shared a little story from high school. I had a little fun. I enjoyed torturing my teachers. I did drive one of them to alcoholism, though. I actually did. It was great.
Well,
She started hearing voices. It was awesome. Anyway,
and you're proud of that?
I'm tremendously proud of that. You have
Shame
no
on
idea
you.
the depths of pride I have in that.
Shame on you.
It's her own damn fault. She should have left me alone. I just wanted to sit in my chair and do my thing. I was
Yeah,
staring
that-
out the window, minding my own business.
You know what? I will give you that, man. All teachers should be able to get a read on what their kids or their students are like. And if you were like that in my class, I'd probably focus all my attention on everybody else.
But that's all I was trying to do. I was like,
All right.
there's 25 other people in this classroom. Go look at them, bother them. I am here so I don't get fined. Just
Very good, Marshawn. Very
yeah,
good.
it's like, I'm just here so I don't get fined, lady. Leave me alone. Do your thing. It's all good. You're here to do a job. I'm here to do a job. Can we just all do our jobs and leave each other alone here?
Well, yep, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Only Dave has him on speed dial. There you go. Yeah, that's right.
That's
Sounds good.
funny.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks again for having me on here, man. Appreciate
No,
it.
no worries, no worries. So anyway, so the big things right now is it's going to be the new channel. In all seriousness, though, you should grab the new channel name since you have it and everything. You can grab it and not have any videos up yet. Just
Right,
set it up
true.
ahead of time. Just do
Yep.
it. Yeah, that way it's ready to go. Because then Steve can subscribe to it and then unsub.
That's true. And yeah,
give
and
the
downvote.
opportunity.
Yep. All right.
Like, jerk move on your part, not giving him the chance to unsub from the thing he hasn't subbed to yet.
No, that's true. That's a missed opportunity for sure.
You're trying to be here all Mr. Nice Guy. You don't even give Steve the chance to unsub from your channel you don't have yet.
I'm too nice, man. Too nice to let him do it.
Awful. Just awful. So we'll see what happens. One thing that I'm going to wait on, one of the guys from Hobby Insider does a lot of, they do their own kind of super collector thing. They do it on their channel. So I'm waiting to see once that comes out. I sent him a thing. Sent him a bunch of Medano card pictures. So he'll do a little profile on the Medano collection. So that'll
Good.
end up on there at some point. I
That'll
got a
be
chance
fun.
to take some nice pictures though. I did enjoy actually have a little fun. Some of those ones on Instagram that came up recently, I got a chance to use those from the pictures I took for that purpose.
Oh, that would explain, especially that one that you said, okay, this hasn't been up yet. Thought I put it up on the channel or on the Instagram channel. So
No, absolutely. That was the idea was I needed to set up a gallery for him. I like this one though. This one came
There
out
you go.
good.
oh yeah, dude, those photographs so well. Love that set.
Yeah, you got to get the lighting though just right. That's the only way it works.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting those, and I was able to take a ton.
Those down there, the seal stamp of approval, man. Those, it's still one of my favorite Tebow cards. They photograph so beautifully, and and those speak for themselves.
Yeah, there was. I was able to take a lot of photos for it. Like a lot of these photos are better than the ones I had originally on Instagram. So I was like, okay, great.
Yeah, those look great, man. No, and if you look at the atomic, come on. I mean, like that. Go down a little bit. Yeah, that card is just.
Here, I'm just looking here at the same time. Yep. There we go.
Yeah. Oh man.
You got to get it just right though. Like otherwise, it doesn't work. There's a lot of stuff going on there.
Right.
For a static picture, you got to.
And feel free to skip the one to the right of it. You don't want me to not like you. So. No, that's awesome.
I like this as a rainbow here. This is fun.
Yeah, that's a fun set. That's a really fun set. A lot of those cards, man. It's been kind of cool though too, is because the ones that Tebow has, I can kind of, oh yeah, I had the same reaction to seeing them. And then some of them, obviously Tebow doesn't have those at all. So
this is the one I couldn't believe I didn't already have. That was the one from the other day, and I was like, how did I not already have this one on there?
You mean just have a picture of it
on the Instagram?
Yeah,
because I was scanning through. I was like, I took a picture of this already, and I scanned through. I was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, oh.
Must have got something even better that same day.
It was like, okay, well, it's there now, so done. I was like,
and then I can say too, if you can stop on the 101 there on the far left, the stature.
Oh, this guy right
101. It was pretty cool because the last interview I did on my channel, I'm noticing that every interview has a one-word theme, and that's why I ask it at the end. And that word was patience. And Reese, he has passed on so many Bonds cards, and I remember you talked about when that first came up, and I sent it to you. You said, "That's not the price I want to pay for that card." And you kind of waited and you waited and got it to the price that you wanted, and then bought it. And you knew you'd be able to get it there eventually, right?
Yeah, well, the truth is, I honestly think if I had been willing to wait even a little harder, I probably could have pushed him down a little bit more. But I think at that point it was a pride thing because I was in communication with the guy constantly.
Right.
So it was one of those things where because he started at 1,000 and I'm like, no, I'm an underbidder at a shield for 1,000. This is not 1,000. Keep trying.
Yeah.
So he kept bringing the price steadily down. I'm like, and even then, I probably could have pushed him a little bit further. I go, this is the best price you're getting from me. So do you want it or not? And he's like, okay, there you go. That's the spirit.
Yeah, I definitely have a different approach to getting a card like that. But other than the fact that you have to get it for the price that you want to pay, I mean. Obviously it would be a bummer if somebody else got it, but I'd say that you've got plenty of 101s in your collection to be okay not having it.
No, it helps a lot. It's one of those things where I would say the playing days ones have a little bit more value to me. That's been a thing.
I would agree with that.
That is a nice card, and it was nice to finish the rainbow. That was awesome to have as a group. I haven't focused on the one of ones a lot. It's always been tricky because if you just want to focus on one of ones, plates are an easy way to bump the number. And actually, this is a good question for Dave. I know that you've got a ton of one-of-ones for a couple of your collections. I would say Josh Johnson. How many plates are there in that? Because I have to think that has at least a chunk of some of those one-of-ones, because plates are kind of one that you can get, especially now, in bulk. Because they're out there, but people aren't overly pricing them anymore like they used to. Mm-hmm. Because I know there was joking about Usenet, because Paul mentioned it, and it was one of the funny things from back in the day. There was a guy I remember that had some of the early press plates, and even for regular guys, he was asking $1,000 US, and I mean regular dudes. And the thing is, he talked to some folks, and he basically he didn't backdoor them, but he basically made a deal with them to get the plates in bulk. And I was like, how rare is it if you have a ton?
Right.
So it's you're trying to ask for $1,000 for a third liner? Are you out of your damn mind? What's wrong with you? Even back then, it made no sense.
People try that approach nowadays, though, so it doesn't surprise me.
Well, the thing is, if he's still holding some of them, he's not getting anything for them anymore. They've been plates out for years. Yeah, half or so. That makes about sense. I figured that. Because he's got a ton of Josh Johnson one-of-ones. So I figured there has to be a reasonable representation of plates. Because I avoided them for so long, I could have just bumped up the number. It would have been easier if I had done that. But it's okay, does it mean anything to me if the plate doesn't excite me? It is
Well,
a
but
one-of-one.
you're just talking about increasing a number of one-on-ones. That means absolutely nothing.
Correct.
I showed you a card at the beginning that has nothing to do with hockey, but it's that card is going to be 10 times nicer than any plate that I'll ever get of that player. So
Agreed. This is the only time I had a little bit of fun with this. This time I had a little bit of fun in this picture. So I've got two regular one-of-ones because they made two of them because Brian Gray's a jerk. So you got the green emerald one-of-one, the gold emerald one-of-one, the gold spectrum one-of-one,
Yep.
and then two of the plates, 2 out of the 4 plates.
Yeah, but excuse me, the plates just plates in my mind are let me increase my one-on-one number thing. Like they just don't do much for me. It was fun to pull one out of a box a long time ago, but yeah.
As soon as they started doing them in all kinds of products, it lost a lot of its luster because you're getting 4 colors per card, and you can have a ton. Yeah, Bradura, War, Forsberg, and years even Dumba. Yeah, and the thing is, it's hard to get excited about them. It really is.
I mean, for me, I can speak upon if Jocelyn Thibault, played maybe a little bit more into the 2000s and had more of those to go for. Yeah, certainly, I would like to chase those down. But for that's just not realistic. So yeah, they don't excite me too much.
I think it's good if you're first starting a player collection. I think you should get 1 or 2.
Yeah,
just to have
absolutely.
Because that's the reason why in the little write up to that, because he does in a similar vein to like a super collector thing. Well, he'll put some static questions and you can answer them however you want. And one of the questions like, is there anything that's like a holy grail, anything you still want? And the only real thing left, like as a category, is those shields. And I would like to have 1. That's all I really require because I don't want to do that. Beyond that.
No.
Just 1. So I can say I have every single category, every version, every variation, at least 1. And then one-of-ones and stuff, they'll come as they come. But I'm not worried about having a bunch. It's just, no, I'll take a shield, and then if I've got 1, I'm satisfied, and then I'll move on to some of the other cards that interest me.
No, you're right. No, you're right. I mean, the only reason I have 2 plates of Tyler Glass now is because one of them was ridiculously cheap. And I'm like, okay, I can't pass that up,
I can live with the plates because those were autographed. That was like, okay, so that's at least a certified auto.
Yeah.
And it added to that count. I was like, okay, so it's a 1-of-1 and an autograph. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's cool. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So this is an interesting one. This is probably a good one for you, Matt. So I can see how goalies can be considered the most important players, yes, and they're in common metrics. Well, really, kind of save percentage, honestly. Now it's not a be all and end all. If you get no shots, that doesn't mean anything. But if you stop the puck, you stop the puck.
Yeah, they've been coming up with a new stat. I've been listening to goalie podcasts. Like,
is it an advanced stat? An advanced stat for goalies?
It is advanced stat, but I've only listened to 2 episodes: Carter Hart's episode, and I listened to Pekka Rinne's episode. But they brought up the shots that were expected to be saved, and I don't know how they're judging how this stat is. Like, if it's a shot with 2 defenders in front of you and you're screening the goalie, like, what's the percentage that shot should be saved? But they kept bringing that stat up when they were talking about their top 10 goalies in the league. And I kept thinking, well, how does a really good defensive team, like, look at Andrei Vasilevsky. My personal opinion, he's not the best goalie in the league because he plays on the best team. Like, I'm looking at it like for what Joe said, who's the GOAT. I think there should be a combination of a guy like, for instance, Carey Price, who plays on a really bad team. They beat the Penguins in the playoffs and almost beat the Flyers because he was so dominant. But his team is terrible. So he should be held at the same standard as a Vasilevsky, who's on the best team, but also a really good goalie. That's just kind of where I sit.
I think your analysis there, though, kind of plays into kind of the point I made earlier about Gretzky, is that you can have someone who puts up great statistics. You take it in context. I would never devalue somebody because I think their team is well configured for what they do.
Not.
I'm not going to devalue them, but I am going to take them in context. I'm going to say, given the situation you're in, given the scenario, given the style that your team plays, is that conducive to helping you do that thing that you do really well? If the answer is yes, I'm not going to take points away. But I'm also going to remember that when it comes time to be like, okay, what about this other person who did a really good job on a team where it's misery to do what you do and they still succeeded?
Yeah, where you get criticized more than anybody. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, if you do your best, but your team genuinely sucks, and you still do well, considering, and we can bring this, and I'll use the Seattle Mariners here. Felix Hernandez was a great pitcher for years.
Lord.
But I'm saying, like, he's a valid example of this. His pitching statistics suffered because he had to overcome adversity.
Yeah,
but
overcome no run support.
Well.
Yeah,
but he still pitched extremely well.
Yeah.
So so in this case, we give him credit and be like, no, he was still very great.
I mean, he gets credit, but he also gets overlooked because the wins weren't there, and those types of things. So it's a very subjective discussion. Like, if we could, Joe asked a question that I think would be great to end on. Is like, if you could give me your top 5 right off the top of your head, are we talking all time, or are we going to go like 2000 and up?
Well, I think you can go all time, but the tricky part is after a certain point, you're going to have trouble. Like, I don't think Jacques Plante's going to make anybody's top 5.
For his era, he was the best.
Correct. But that's what I mean. Yeah. Like, but I have to. The 1950s operated very differently than the 1980s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Operated very different than the 1990s. Operated very differently than the 2000s.
Okay, how about this? Just because I've been learning a lot about these guys, and maybe Joe, you can pick one to learn more about. Guys that are playing right now. Who's your top 5? Guys that are playing right now. No particular order. Just give me top 5 guys. If you could have a team and these 5 guys are going to get you a win, which 5 guys are you going with?
That's really hard because I feel like a lot of these goaltenders now. So I'll answer this way. I can try to come up with 5 names, and I do my best. I don't watch as much hockey as I used to be fair. Let's be fair about that. But I will say this. When I watch games, I feel like the average goaltender is a better goaltender than they were in a lot of the eras that I would watch. The cream of the crop is the cream of the crop, but I feel like the average has come up. Part of that is because they're very smart. And the reason why I use that era definition, and again, this may not help you, but I just want to give you context. The reason why it became difficult, and Paul's making a good point with this here.
I think absolutely.
Yeah. But the point is, it's context, right? It's context because he did enough. And that team was structured in such a way where it was good enough to get the job done. When Waugh came out with the butterfly style, it revolutionized the goalie side of the game.
Yeah.
When the bigger goaltenders came out, it revolutionized the side of the game. Some of these guys are so big.
Ben Bishop.
They just take up so much space where they are. There was a commercial here in Canada that was a air filter commercial for cars. And the joke they use is they go, this is their air filters. And they show a guy having like 1910s goal pads where it's like 85% open net. Like you can shoot on him and score at will. And then they go, these are our air filters. And it's a guy who is like 95% pad. There is nowhere to shoot. The guy's just standing there static and you can't shoot it past him. That happened for a little while. Yeah. Jean-Sébastien Giguère had a thing. Jean-Sébastien Giguère had a mechanism where when he went down on the butterfly, his shoulder pads would actually come up. And it was literally like a thing that would get triggered by him moving down. And it wasn't a machine. It wasn't like a mechanism, but it would still move the pads up. So it would make his shoulders come up to almost his ears. And all of a sudden he'd take up just a little bit more space and it would be harder to shoot.
Yeah.
That was allowed for a while. The pads kept getting bigger on the legs. So it's like, are you a great goaltender? Probably. Does your equipment help? Definitely.
Okay, so I mean, with that being said, let's look at technique and let's look at the ability to impact the game regardless of the team. Where are you going with your top 5?
Okay, so
or just with 5 guys.
Let me go with. I have to go with 5 guys from my era because those are the ones I saw the most. It's easier for me to look at those guys because I think they would translate to this era. So that's the reason why I say I'm comfortable with these guys from a technique standpoint. To your point.
Okay.
Hasek, just because his technique was ridiculous. The fact that he could stop a puck, being as ridiculous as he was incredible to me. I think he could still do incredible things in his era. And Dave mentioned him here. Like, it was shocking how good he was at stopping pucks, considering the style he used.
Yeah.
Or no style. Like, literally the opposite of style. Mm-hmm. So I think he could hold up. He could still find a way to stop pucks in today's game.
In today's game? Okay.
He could still do it. I still think he could. I think Ed Belfour was a fundamentally sound goaltender. As insane as he was a fundamentally sound goaltender. He could stop pucks. That man could stop pucks.
Right.
Bergeur was fundamentally sound. He could do it in any era.
Yep.
Waugh was an arrogant prick that would make me blush. But could he stop pucks? You're damn right he could. Only blush for like a half a second, and then I'd be like, get on my level, Wah. But the point is that he could stop pucks. Mm-hmm. He could stop pucks. And he did it in the 80s, and he did it in the 90s, and he did it effectively in very different teams and very different eras. Yep. Those 80s Canadians teams were not the same as his Avalanche teams, but he still got it done.
Right.
We give him the credit for it. We give him the credit.
Absolutely.
He deserves it. So how many did I name off? 3 or 4? 4?
No, well, you're naming off that like you've watched. So
I have to go with guys I watched though, because a lot of these guys,
true.
I'll watch them, and to me they look very similar. I struggle to differentiate. Yeah. Like I look at them and I go, I feel like you all went to the same school and learned from the same teacher. So I'm like, so how do I pick you guys apart? Like, Marc-Andre Fleury clearly is successful because he did it. He almost took another team to a Stanley Cup. So I have to give him credit for that.
No,
so I should. Right. I should, out of respect, I should give him credit for that because that's hard to do. But these other guys would have these moments and times. Carey Price carried his team for years, but they never got all the way. But he still was clearly able to carry his team for stretches.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, man, if he was on or had a good team around him, my gosh, I mean, he would be, catapulted into this upper echelon of greatness.
With a lot of these modern guys, I struggle only because, and it's not a cop-out, like I'm being honest, I struggle with these guys because they look similar to me in net. Like I look at them and I go, if I took your jersey off and made it a generic white jersey, and I gave you generic white pads, and I gave you a white helmet, and I stood a bunch of you and I just watched you play goal, could I tell the difference?
Well, I think that's a good point.
It's really hard. It would be hard.
It'd be fun to watch, but they're all training so vigorously and similarly to be successful that it's no question that they've all started looking so similar as compared to where you had guys like Waugh and Brodeur. And I mean, for instance, one guy that stands out to me currently is Tuukka Rask because of his personality, though.
Sure.
Obviously, the way he plays is similar in a way because they're all so good. But he just the way that he goes about his business and the way that he interacts with the media and everybody, that's a guy who kind of stands out. You know what I mean? Above all the rest. Ben Bishop, because of his size. He's 6'7", maybe 6'8" with pads. It's no wonder it's impossible to score on him. He's had the highest save percentage, 2-3 years now?
Yeah. But at the same time, he was hurt. So it's like when it came time.
Problem,
So it's one of those things where it's like all of it plays in totality. You have to remember what I said earlier about context. Context is important. The team that Ben Bishop was on, the Dallas Stars, went to the Stanley Cup final. They did it without Ben Bishop.
Yeah, Anton Khudobin, right? Did I say it correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. So, would they have fared better with Ben Bishop? Maybe. But it's hard to say. He wasn't available. So, what am I supposed to do?
But then that kind of goes with that. I mentioned it a long time ago when we started talking. The gap between the backups and the starters has never. I mean, look at Elvis Merzlikins and Jonas Korpisalo on the same team. Those are two top 15 goalies on the same team. There's so much talent out there right now. So my biggest goal when and if we have a season is to try to answer your question. How am I going to differentiate Anton Khudobin and Andrei Vasilevsky? How can I tell the difference?
You're really going to have to watch some games because the nuances are going to be so slight because a lot of these guys use a very similar technique.
Right.
And the differences today are so slight.
Right.
A little bit of it is, so I'll give you an example of a guy who had a similar style but a different setup. For many years in Toronto, they loved Felix Potvin. But Felix Potvin liked to set up very far back in the net, which meant he was relying on reflexes.
Yeah.
Which when it worked, it was fine. When it didn't work, it's disastrous. Because you're not really cutting off the angle, you're back in the net. Mm-hmm. So it's like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you got no margin for error. If it gets by you even a little bit, it's already in the net. Mm-hmm. So that was a stylistic choice.
Right.
Today, a lot of these guys will fundamentally make the same choice. Another Dallas guy that I like that never really got a chance to really show what he could do fully.
Yeah.
Turco was fun to watch in net. He wasn't Belfour, but he was also a guy who could poke check a lot better. He was also a guy who would go out and get the puck. He'd play the puck.
Right. He did a lot.
That was his style, but that was a differentiator. Belfour was just solid. He was a rock. And when he was Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, skating the crease and all that, they got to triple overtime. You know why? Because you had Dominic Hasek on one side, and you had Belfour on the other. And you had two teams that could play defense. And then you had two walls.
No,
it was going to have
that
to be
was-
something like that to score.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, what does that tell you? Those guys were rocks.
No, yep, and that's the thing. Like when you say that, if you were to say right now, name one goalie who's a rock in net, you'd have a hard time, like you said, picking. I mean, I already know who I would pick, but it's tough. It's tough to say, because there's so many other factors than there was back then.
You can have a guy. You can have a guy who will have a ridiculous 50 save performance. You will have a guy, and then he'll go and get lit up the next game.
Well, yeah,
Or
like
the opposite.
Korpisalo, how many saves did he have? 70-something saves that one game, the quadruple overtime game, wasn't it? Like 74 saves?
Probably something like that, yeah.
But then the next game, you're right, he got scored on 3-4 times. So,
But that's the way it works. It's like, it's the consistency. Like, for all its faults, and like I said, the whole Dallas era with Ed Belfour was fun. Because for all his faults, and he was nuts, certifiably insane. But you knew when he got a net, it's like, I'm pretty confident this is going to be a low-scoring thing. The guys are going to struggle to score on him because he's just going to be there. He's going to stop pucks, and he's going to do this over and over again until you get frustrated.
right.
And the team knew how to do that, and they knew how to play into that. Modano played two-way. Darian Hatcher was a rock defensively. Zubov would chain smoke and then go out there for 35, 40 minutes because he's insane. That team had character, if nothing else.
Well, and that's what you just talked about, man, is watching Pittsburgh play Montreal and being like, how have we not scored more goals yet? Watching a player on the ice, of course a goalie, make such an impact that Price did was just like, okay, I've gained more respect, A, for the position, but B, the types of saves he's making that other goalies wouldn't have made against Crosby. And I mean, Malkin had like the worst series of his life. And part of it has to be contributed to the goaltending. I mean, I don't care what anybody says, but we also sucked. How much of it was Price, I don't know. But
there will be series like that, though. Would you know when you're watching a proper series? I had a little fun with Paul on Instagram a little while ago where he was talking about, so when I sent that gold impulse, Curtis Joseph his way, because it belongs in his collection more than mine. So when I sent it his way, he has the memory of when they beat the Stars the one time, in the playoffs, but it was because Curtis Joseph was standing on his head. He was otherworldly. He was stopping everything he could. He was willing that team. It didn't amount to anything because Edmonton.
Okay.
But the point is, for that one series, the man was transcendent.
Yeah.
So when it happens, you can sense it. You can watch a goaltender when they decide to be transcendent. Curtis Joseph was a guy who could be that.
Absolutely.
At different times.
Well, he played for a long time for a reason. So
it's hard to pick out guys in the current era that can do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's hard to pick them out.
I think other than Price, because his team wins when they have such a bad record and they're so terrible at every position. I mean, it's tough for me to go beyond that. I mean, obviously, Tuukka is always going to be up there for me, and but other than that, it's just and it's funny too because they're Connie Hellebuck. He wins the Vezina this year, and his Young Guns card was under $10. I'm like, this makes, or I think it was actually 13. My bad. I was thinking of Tim Thomas, who should have been more extensive. But he's a fantastic goaltender. Yet there's so many good ones out there that I think it's hard to, like you said, say that guy.
What's going to be interesting is if he can repeat, because that's the trick with a lot of these guys. They'll have that season where they'll put the pieces together, and it's like, okay, cool. Can you repeat? Because in that era that I think back to. When I think back to goaltenders, again, goaltenders stifle joy and ruin lives. But the thing is, in that era, you had Curtis Joseph. You had Martin Brodeur. You had Patrick Roy. You had Ed Belfour. You had these guys that were spearheading these teams that were monsters.
Yeah.
And you had Dominic Hasek out there, doing his thing. So you had all these goaltenders that could spearhead and help lead these teams. Mm-hmm. And the goaltending talent was so rife. You had so many great. If you had one of these guys, you're like, we got a shot. We got a shot. If we got one of these guys, we got a shot. Today, it's like, let's put it this way. If a couple of bounces had gone their way, Dallas could have won the Stanley Cup with miscellaneous.
Yeah.
Ben Bishop is off in the distance. It's like, this is what we won with? This is it? Really? Okay, great. I'll take it.
Right.
So it wouldn't have exactly gone in the annals of great goaltending performances in the finals, but it would have counted.
Well, I mean, but Caboden and Vasilevsky both played really well. I mean, I saw him
They did.
in that overtime game.
Yeah.
I believe it was game 5, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a game where you could really see the goaltending kind of stand out above some of the rest. I mean, they were both playing at the top of their game.
Yeah. But it was a bizarre thing because 5 years ago, Dallas had a really good team, but their goaltending was horrific. So they would score goals, but then they'd immediately give up a goal. Then
Who was their goalies back then?
It was Kiri Lettinen and other guy. I don't remember who was. I think it was two like terrible. They were name guys, but at the same time they were both awful, like genuinely awful.
Yeah.
But the point is, like they were like, okay, so which guy are we gonna put in net? Like, does it matter? They're both awful. Pick one.
Yeah.
It's the wrong choice. It doesn't matter.
That's too bad. Yeah, but you don't see that much as much now. You know, I mean, very rarely do you see a goalie, put up. I'll say it. I don't like trashing anybody, but I'll say Matt Murray was not that good, which makes me happy because my favorite player right now, of course, is Tristan Jarry. We'll see how he does, but you don't see guys just have really low save percentages under 900 really anymore. Everybody's really, really tough in that. So I think it's a great era for goalies in general because they're also talented. But this year again, I'm looking for those 2 to 3 guys that just are like, whoa, okay.
I think we'll see. I think it'll be interesting. I think playing the field actually gives you an opportunity because if one of those, somebody has got to emerge to be the best goalie of this era.
Well, and
I don't know who it is, but somebody's got to emerge.
There's more young talent in the league now than I've ever seen. You got Carter Hart, who's I think the numero uno best young goalie in the league. You got Shesterkin. You've got Tristan Jarry, who's young-ish. And then you've got all these other guys that are really young and coming up that are really talented. I mean, I don't think we've seen that era before. So in my mind, I'm more excited for the youth that's performing at a high level in NHL than ever before. So it's kind of where I'm sitting.
Sounds good. Oh, here we go. Dave's got it. I'm going to get to Joe's point here in a second.
That's right.
That was
boy.
That's right. Not great. Not great.
His young gun was cheap.
That team was good, though. Like, that team outside of the goaltending was actually really good. That's what made it frustrating. I was like, this team's actually good.
Imagine if you guys had Carey Price in that. You guys would have won every single game.
I would have taken the Zamboni driver. Like, at least he stopped a puck. I watched those guys not stop pucks for an entire series. It was great.
Yeah.
So anyway, Joe, let's finish off with this one, and then we'll plug your channel one more final time, and we'll call it a day. So Joe's point, I know exactly what he's talking about with the Nolan Ryan thing, and it's an interesting comparison. The only point I would make, Joe, and this is interesting for me, and I never understood why he decided to do this. It was always interesting. Nolan Ryan did this thing where after he left the New York Mets, because at the beginning of his career he was a New York Met, then he went on to be a California Angel. And he established himself as a dominant pitcher. But the Angels were garbage. Hot garbage. But he would go and have no hitters. He would have 300 strikeout years and do all these things. And then, after that era, so I would say the rest of the 1970s, he was a California Angel. Then in the 1980s, he's like, all right, I'm going to go closer to home. And I'm going to pitch for the Houston Astros, who were also hot garbage, except for like a cup of coffee there. Like, they were okay for a couple of years there, and then they were hot garbage too. And he just stayed, and he kept pitching well for a terrible team. And then at that point, I guess they thought he was old, and he went to pitch at Texas Rangers, got another no-hitter or two to finish off his career, finished off a Hall of Fame career. But his stats actually look okay. Like, he's got the numbers. Strikeouts, all-time leader. 300 wins, all that stuff. But his winning percentage is almost 500 because he lost so many games playing for garbage teams that couldn't score.
Right.
So it's like, well, then why do you keep going to these bad teams and staying? Because they're bad. The California Angels were bad. And the Houston Astros, with the exception of a cup of coffee, were bad. But you stuck around. And the Texas Rangers weren't exactly great when he went in the early 90s. So it's like,
I don't know, man.
It's kind of your fault, dude. Like, I can't help you. Pick a better team. There you go. Nice.
Was that the final one with Texas?
Seventh was the last one. Yeah.
I love Tom. I'll get the heck is his pitching coach's name? Not Seaver, of course. Tom, help me out.
For the Rangers?
He's got this mega pitching facility and this program that he's put together. His first name is Tom, not White. Anyway, he told the story about that last no hitter, and I guess he had like the worst bullpen of his life. And then he came out the first inning, struck out 3 guys in a row, and said, "Boys, just get me one. That's all I'll need." And
well, there was a stretch of time where that was true. Literally, he just needed a minimum amount of run support, and it was enough.
Yeah.
But they couldn't even get him that sometimes.
Oh gosh, yeah, Robin Ventura. Geez, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. That was a great highlight. Not for Robin Ventura, but for everybody else. It was
yeah,
great.
Robin always gets asked about it now too. It's a bummer.
I think he signs like a dual autograph with Nolan Ryan because he has to embrace it. It's like, we want this autograph. Could you just sign it?
Yeah, well, there was a time where he refused to. I know. I read that.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. But the bottom line here, when it comes to this one, Joe, like I said, it is an interesting thing. He's always an anomaly, but extremely popular player. At the end of the day, it didn't affect his popularity, and it obviously didn't affect his Hall of Fame candidacy because everyone knew he was dominant for a long time. Like, he was great.
No,
He was truly great. I just need to include this because it puts a little dig at Trout, which I enjoy. So, prioritized rings is a prerequisite for GOAT status with the exception of Trout. Yes. Yes, it is. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right. So last thing then, you guys can check out, I've been putting it on the scroll the whole time that we've been talking. So Essential Credentials is the main YouTube channel. The new one is yet to be made. So once he makes it, then we'll actually be able to get Steve to subscribe so then he can subsequently unsubscribe.
Perfect.
It's very important. It's important to Steve that you do this for him, man. I need you to do this for him. Do it for him.
I do need to do something nice for Steve. That's true. I mean, I was going to send him some hockey cards to add to his collection, but I was like, yeah, he's got too many already.
We all need to appreciate Steve. He is a national treasure. We need to appreciate him properly. Appreciate him.
Okay. All right.
Are you trying to suggest I'm anything less than sincere, Matt? I don't like your tone that you're trying to get at here.
I'm not saying a word.
Your tone speaks volumes, sir.
Touche.
Yeah. So Joseph the praise. That's right. Absolutely. Sounds good. Okay. Yep. So thanks, guys. So thanks, Matt, for hanging out. Appreciate it. Yep. So he's got a lot of projects on the go. Check out some of the channels, some of the social medias as well, because that's where you can kind of get a sense of it. Social media, especially the Instagram, is a good place to get a lot of the information.
Absolutely.
Last thing for you guys, I know some of you already know, but I'll just remind in case. On Friday, I'm going to be interviewing and hanging out with Carvin Chung. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. There's been some questions that have been brought up. Steve, if you're still around, you can hear me. I did ask Carvin your question. I got a little bit of insight for it. If you want to know ahead of time, you'll have to just reach out to Dave and let me know. But outside of that, I'm going to ask Carvin a little bit, and I'll let him elaborate. I'll let him at least explain some of it, because he did explain some of it from the manufacturer's perspective. So that might be something interesting for you to find out about. And we'll discuss that. Any other questions from the manufacturer side, from the distribution side on that? Carvin worked at Upper Deck, worked at Panini, he worked at Grosvenor Distribution, and he currently works for GTS Distribution, and he's been a hobbyist for like 40, 50 freaking years.
That's awesome.
So he knows a thing or two. He knows a thing or two about a couple of these things. So if you got a question, feel free to ask them. Just saying. There you go. Good stuff. So yeah, just let me know one way or the other. Like I said, Steve, if you want to know separately, there's some stuff that will not make air. So if you want the answer to that, you'll have to get Dave will be your conduit. You'll have to let me know. But the stuff that can make air, then Carvin will speak to directly, and we can ask those questions. Sound good?
Cool.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. Have yourselves a good evening. And it is now, in the Eastern time zone, 12:01. It is now December the 1st. Enjoy the last month of 2020. Hopefully we can get through it.
Brace yourselves.
Sounds good. All right. Take it easy, guys.
Yep. See ya.